Brother Bo, man, we are so thankful to have you on the 3 of 7 podcast, man. Thank you for being here.
Well, you're welcome. I enjoy talking. Somebody posted something on Facebook, said if you could do one thing that you could win a gold medal in, what would it be? And I put down talking.
Well, you know what, Bo? That's perfect, man, because that's the whole point of us coming together today is to sit down and talk. So, man, I tell you, it's really an honor to have you on here. And, you know, Bo, I have never met you before. I've heard a lot about you, but I don't know where you came from. I'd like to start with that, learn a little bit about you, brother.
All right. Well, I can tell you I'm Texas born, Texas bred, and when I die, I'll be Texas dead.
Well, what are you doing in Georgia, Bo?
I was kidnapped by my wife, who was an alien, and I was brought out here. But no, this is where my wife is from, and this is where she wanted to live after we retired. So, you know, if Mama's happy, Daddy's happy, you know. But I lost her in 2018 to cancer. And I've had people say, if something happened to Penny, would you go back to Texas? And I'm like, well, not unless I can take all my kids, grandkids, and great-grandkids with me. No, I'm just going to stay right where I'm at.
Yep. And Georgia's not too bad a place to be, but I'm going to tell you what, Bo, you Texas boys, I think y'all supply about 75% of the U.S. military with their candidates.
Right.
I mean, I served with a pile of Texas boys, and every one of them were solid men. And I'm talking about every one of them. I don't remember ever serving with a man from Texas that wasn't good to go. And every one of them, they said exactly what Bo just said. They belong to the great state of Texas, and something about that state. They're doing something right over there. So. Oh
yeah, yeah. Well, I just rewatched American Sniper with Chris Kyle.
Yep.
And, you know, and in some regards, you know, Chris Kyle and I were alike. And I have to say, as well as my my brothers and my dad. My dad, I didn't have to go to movies to see John Wayne. John Wayne lived at my house. My dad was World War II vet, 1st Marine Division, Guadalcanal, wounded, got out, enlisted in the Army, fought with the 2nd Infantry Division in Korea, and done 2 tours in Vietnam before he passed away from cancer. And likewise, my 2 brothers, both military vets. My youngest brother, Johnny, was 1st Cav, Vietnam. My middle brother, the one that's next to me, he was 1st Cav when they were in Korea. So,
wow, man, what a career! You talk about your father. I mean, I've never even heard of a career like that.
So he was in the Marines, got wounded, and got out. And
World War II.
And then enlisted in the Army,
right?
And went and served under them,
right?
Man,
we were kind of like ping pong balls. He went to Vietnam, come back. I went to Vietnam, come back. Dad went back to Vietnam, come back. My brother went to Vietnam, come back.
Wow.
Fortunately, I guess in a way, when I come back from Nam, I went to Germany. And I was in Germany for almost 3 years. So by the time I come back, Vietnam was starting to wind down. So I didn't go back, but I would have.
Where were you at in Germany, Bo?
Mainz.
Mainz, okay.
Lee Barracks. The 509th Airborne was Lee Barracks, and I wasn't with the 509th, but I was with a small detachment, and I worked with military intelligence, MI, and we were like 4 officers and like 7 or 8 enlisted men.
Wow, man. I spent some time in Stuttgart myself during my career.
Yeah.
You can have some fun in Germany.
Oh, definitely.
At least nowadays, I don't know how it was back then, but it's a wonderful place to just have a little reprieve.
Yes, it is. I mean, it's a beautiful country, and I was actually there when I was a younger soldier with the picture you see there with the 10th Combat Engineers, and I tell people I was raised by Christian background. It's based on the foundation that my grandmother laid for me. I didn't smoke. I didn't drink all the way through high school. They put me through basics, advanced training, sent me straight to Germany, and it was like throwing a starving kid in Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. I mean,
I bet it was, Bo. I could only imagine, brother. I want to go back and talk about why did you decide to join the Army, and what was that process like back in those days, Bo?
Well, I'd been with my dad. He was stationed in Germany with at the time the 10th Infantry Division, and I went 2 years of high school in Nuremberg, Germany, and we came back, and Dad came back to Fort Benning, Georgia, and I went to the 11th grade at Baker High School, which I don't think it exists anymore. I took 1 year of ROTC there, which is a lot different than the ROTC they have in high schools now. I mean, we actually had real weapons, you know.
Yeah.
When I went in the Army, I could already field strip M1 rifle, and I knew, all the general orders, the code of conduct, and all of that. And but I wanted to graduate from my hometown, so I went back to Llano, and I stayed with my grandparents. And when I come out of Llano High School, I wanted to go back and visit with Mom and Dad, and they were still at Fort Benning. So, and I just had the desire to join the military. And I'll tell people right now, I believe in God, I believe in country, I believe in the Constitution of the United States and the American people, and that's my priorities, and it is today. And I took an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States, and as long as I can creep, crawl on this earth, I will defend that, and that's the way I am today.
I couldn't say it no better than that, Bo.
We need more men like that.
Yeah. Ain't that the truth, brother? Man, that is awesome, Bo.
Yeah.
And when you enlisted in the Army, what year was that, Bo?
1960.
1960.
Right.
Okay. What was going on back then?
Well, wasn't a lot at that particular time, but after while I was in Germany, I was supposed to come back to the States in 1962, but I got extended because of the Cuban Missile Crisis, which I don't know if a lot of people are familiar with it, but that was when the Russians were putting missiles in Cuba, and John Kennedy, put up the blockade, the naval blockade, to keep Russian ships from coming in, and it looked like for a while that we might be on the brink of a major conflict, but thankfully they backed down, and at that particular time, a lot of we still had the draft, and a lot of the draftees got extended past their ETSs because of the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, right after that happened, I applied for Army Special Forces, and they sent me a thing back saying, wait till 90 days before your ETS and resubmit. And I'm thinking, yeah, right. I know you're wanting me to re-enlist. That's what you want me to do.
Oh, yeah.
So I actually came back to the States. I got out of the military. I went back to Texas and working on a ranch for a little while. And my dad was at that time was stationed at Fort Polk, Louisiana, and as was my future wife's dad. And so I wanted to go down and visit my family, and that's where I met my wife. And I'm thinking, well, I'm making like $10 a day working on a ranch. I want to get married. I want to have kids. So I re-enlisted into the Army and stayed there for a career. I retired in May of 1982.
Wow, Bo. And so when you re-enlisted for this second time, you didn't have to go back through boot camp, or they just brought you right back in the mix, pretty much.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Temporarily, while I was waiting for an assignment, I was doing duty at the reception station when you had new troops coming in before they moved over to the training units. And I was responsible for making sure that their barracks were clean. I would take them to get their first inoculations, their first issue of clothing, and pretty much almost like a drill sergeant.
Yeah.
And then I came down orders for Italy, and where I went to I was assigned to the Southern European Task Force, which was a joint or a NATO type operation. I worked with German soldiers, Italian, and some French with training, and we were just a NATO unit organization.
Okay.
And I was supposed to be over there 3 years. I had to borrow money to get my wife over there because
I was about to ask, where was she at? Because you're in Italy, you're in Germany. Yeah.
Yeah, she was pregnant, and I had to wait till my son was born before I could get him over there. And I dropped all the way back down to a private E2, when I came back in.
That's right.
And so I borrowed the money from American Express and got my family over there. And I was supposed to be there 3 years. And to show you, spouses of military people don't get the honor and respect they deserve. My wife deserves it. She deserves the utmost respect because she had to deal with a lot of things that you don't occur in, like in civilian life. And one of them was they called me up on the phone. This was on the 30th of June. And they said, you got orders to go back to the States. And I said, okay, my time here is not up yet. You got orders to go back. Your plane leaves on the 11th of July. So we had from the 30th of June to the time we boarded on the plane to get everything packed up to ship back to the States. And I asked how much time from the time I leave here till I have to report to Fort Bragg, North Carolina. And they said, you got 5 days. So we got back to Fort Bragg. We had no sheets, no dishes, no nothing. My car, we came back by plane. Everything else came back by boat.
Man. So everything else was behind you then.
Yeah. So I was training at Bragg, and I was at Bragg 9 months, and I'm on my way to Vietnam.
So did they bring you back from overseas back to the States because was Vietnam just kicking up? I mean, what year was this?
This was in 1966 when I came back.
Okay.
And early in 67, I was on my way to Vietnam.
Okay. And what was your MOS in the Army at this time, Bo?
11 Bravo Infantry.
Okay. All right.
And in April of 67, before I went to Nam, and you'll appreciate this because we jumped into Puerto Rico for a training exercise, where I believe the Navy SEALs still do part of their training at Roosevelt Roads. I don't know if they still do or not, but I assume they do. So we kind of got into a little physical contact between us. And
Did you really?
well, we kind of it wasn't. We were doing physical seeing who could do the most push-ups.
Oh,
most,
yeah. That sounds about right.
We didn't get any, physical fights, but we were trying to impress each other with our prowess.
Well, here's these Navy guys. I mean, the SEAL teams back then, that was a brand new unit.
Yeah.
Back then. So,
yeah.
gosh, man, I wish I could have. I just wish I could go back and see what it was like back then for you guys. I mean, it's.
I have utmost respect for anybody, whatever branch they served in. I don't care if you were a supply clerk, a finance clerk. The Army has a lot of combinations, a lot of different parts, and they work together.
Yep.
And so if you served, I respect you very greatly, and you deserve everybody's respect.
I'll say the same thing, Bo. When you go and sign the dotted line, you are writing a blank check that's payable for the amount up to and including your life, because you don't know. Even if your MOS is a supply clerk, you get sent downrange somewhere, you don't know where you're going to end up. You belong to the U.S. government.
Right.
And that's a risk that everyone takes.
Yeah. Especially in today's age and time, at one time you used to have what you call front lines, but in Vietnam, places like that, there are no front lines.
Yeah.
You could get, to give you an example, S.O.G headquarters was located in Saigon at one time in the Cholon Chinese district of Saigon. And I had to go in for a debriefing. And the Army had leased old French hotels, and a lot of the people that were worked in Saigon, that's where their barracks was at, those hotels. And they had an open mess at one called the Capitol Hotel. And it was in walking distance from where S.O.G headquarters was at. And it was an old French type hotel. It had a courtyard wall around it. Of course, they had the security police, the military police. They had the white barrels with concrete and everything. And so I was walking over there to go get something to eat at the open mess. And I'm across the street from where the hotel was at before I crossed over. And I crossed over, I went past the MPs, the barrels. I just got inside the courtyard fence when I heard the explosion. And contrary to what they were supposed to be doing, a lot of the GIs would gather around, I guess, waiting for transportation to go back to their units after reading. They weren't supposed to be doing that. And you had all the little Vietnamese kids, selling porno pictures and whatever, or trying to steal money. And what had happened was they had a claymore set up on a bicycle across the street from where I had just crossed from.
Gone.
And it just totally wiped them people out that was in front. I mean, I hit the ground when I heard the explosion. And I started back out, and they had a sniper up in the top of the building across, and he was trying to engage me and the MPs, because they had been largely protected from the claymore. And we killed the guys up there, but I mean, there was just bodies strewn all over the place, little Vietnamese kids. You know what a claymore can do to people.
Yeah.
And and I'm thinking, man, I'm out here running in the bush. I expect to try to get killed, but here I'm in Saigon, going to eat dinner at an open mess, and just a few seconds slower, and I'd have been right in the blast area.
Man, wow. And that's a perfect example of what we just were talking about, Bo.
Yeah.
That's a perfect example. And a claymore mine is a serious piece of ordnance.
Yes, it is.
And that's a tactic that even in this current war they have used over and over again. Is that claymore essentially is an IED?
Yeah.
So they'll set this claymore, this IED off, and then they'll have snipers into position. And then when everybody rushes in to help the victims of the IED, that's when they engage.
Right.
Right. So this is these same tactics are being used over and over again.
Yeah. The thing with Charlie was where there was one, there was another one waiting to take advantage of your reaction.
Yes.
If you were 11 Bush, and you're out on patrol and you're walking across the dikes at the rice paddies, and they have a booby trap there, your natural reaction is you're going to get off the dike down at the side, and that's where the second ones are at, or the third one. And a good example of what I'm talking about is this one actually occurred in Saigon. They had a restaurant that was out floating on the water, and they had I don't know what they used, but they had an explosive blast at the rear. So, the reaction is everybody starts running out the front.
The front, yeah.
That's where the second one is, and that's where you get the most casualties.
Yep.
So
these guys were sharp. And I want to talk more about them here in a minute. I want to go back real quick, Bo.
All right,
and I want to talk about that when they pulled you and your family back here to the States to basically you're here in this 11 Bravo infantryman, and then, Vietnam, they know it's coming. You have to do this training cycle leading up to Vietnam.
Yeah.
What was that training like? Because this was a brand new war, a brand new environment. What was that like?
Well, it was basically like a recondo school, because I'd done a recon before when I was in Germany. Even when I was with Combat Engineers, I used to do recon, and the training was pretty much you had to run 9 miles to complete the course with full equipment and a little extra weight just make it bad, and just regular combat training, but I can tell you right now, and I've talked to Calhoun High School, I've talked to Gordon Central High School and Ashworth Middle School, and one of the things I tell people, I don't care what kind of training you went through. I don't care if you went through Special Warfare Center. I don't care if you went through advanced infantry training, or at Fort Polk they had a village set up to train, for Vietnam.
To simulate Vietnam.
Yeah. But there's nothing that prepared you for Vietnam. Vietnam, what we had, to me, we had military leaders that were a lot of veterans from Korea, Korea in World War II.
Yeah.
And they were trying to fight a conventional war in an unconventional situation.
Yep.
And we were totally unprepared for it. I mean, and the bad thing about it was, if you went over to Vietnam, and by the time you learned how to really be efficient in your job and doing everything, then if you're still alive, you're rotating back to the States, and you got a new guy coming over doing the same thing.
Yep.
We probably had more success, when you had a unit rotating over and a unit rotating back, because you had the same people all the time. But and the other thing in Vietnam is, and I use the example is A Shau Valley. heavily populated by North Vietnamese regulars. I'm not talking about, Viet Cong. I'm talking about North Vietnamese regulars that were Russian trained, Russian equipped. And you could send the first cav in, push the NVA and the Viet Cong out. First cav comes right back out. NVA and the Cong come right back in again. Then you repeat the same process over and over again. We didn't take a lot of things and hold it.
Yeah.
And so, that's where you had all these casualties because you're just doing the same thing. If they had let my old boss from the chief of S.O.G run Vietnam, we would have shut down anything coming from North Vietnam down through Laos or Cambodia. We would shut it down.
Well, I want to ask you too, Bo, for a lot of, I think a lot of our listeners are, a younger generation, and I want to hear from your perspective, what was the war all about? What was Vietnam all about? What was going through your head when you heard, now I've got to go over here, and this is for real. What was this all about, man?
Well, when my thought was when I first come down on orders, this is the all-American boy going over to fight for God and country, and then I realized that wasn't the case, and Vietnam. Say you're the average Vietnamese peasant. You're a farmer. You're got your rice fields, and you're being killed by and tortured by communists, and you're being killed and tortured by your own government. The South Vietnamese government was corrupt, and my attitude that changed over the period of time I was in Vietnam. I was fighting for the Vietnamese people.
Yep.
That's who I was fighting for.
Yep.
I mean,
for their freedom, their liberty. Right. Yeah, that's right.
That's what I was fighting for.
And
everything else was gone. That's what I was fighting for. I knew I wasn't over there, to save America or anything else. I was over there fighting for the Vietnamese people. And
wow.
We after all we done, some of our most loyal people that I encountered in Vietnam was the Montagnard tribesmen, the Hills people. They were almost I put them to like they were like the American Indian was to here in America. The Vietnamese didn't like them. They didn't like the Vietnamese. They were tribes. I mean, you could take a young Montagnard boy, and by the time he's maybe 8, 9, or 10 years old, he could track, he could trap, and they lived like that. And they were kind of a primitive people, but they were also very loyal to us. And my understanding was if we ever pulled out, we were going to bring the Montagnards out with us. And of course, I wasn't there at the time, but some of the special ops people were moving them over to where they could be picked up by Navy ships to be brought out. And that didn't happen. The ships weren't there. And basically what they wanted from us was just give us weapons, give us ammo, give us whatever we need, and we will keep fighting.
Keep fighting, yeah.
But we left them there, and I believe there was estimated like maybe 2,000 Montagnards alive when we left, and eventually they found maybe 200, 250 in refugee camps in Cambodia and Laos. And some of those were eventually brought back and mostly located around Fort Bragg, because they were used to dealing with the Army Special Forces people, and so we pretty much shafted the mountain yards.
That's so cool, Bo. I never knew about that kind of subculture within the Vietnam culture there.
Yeah.
Sounds like they were some awesome woodsmen and warriors.
Yes, they were. I mean,
I could only imagine being able to fight alongside those guys.
Yeah. Well, they, like I said, they were primitive kind of people, but they, they hated the Vietnamese because the Vietnamese mistreated them. Excuse me. But if you had mountain yards on your team, you knew that they were going to be with you, and no matter what you got into, they were going to be with you. Sometimes the Vietnamese, you couldn't count on them. I mean, you might get in a firefight and look around and the Vietnamese are gone, and you're there by yourself, and I could understand it because like I told you, they were caught between two things. Your average Vietnamese person, they were caught between a corrupt government and the communists. So some of the best ones were the Ranger trained Vietnamese, but your average Vietnamese, they were going to get shafted one way or the other. So
well, when you finish your work up, Bo, and you ship off, you go. This will be your first trip to Vietnam, combat deployment. The war's on.
Right.
I want to know. I want to get a picture of what it's like when you show up there. What is it when you get boots on the ground? I mean, it's like it is a whole nother world, man.
Yes, it is.
And you've done some traveling prior to this, but it seems like it's all been pretty much first world country. So
yeah, right.
What is it like over there?
You didn't have CCR playing in the background while your feet was hanging over the helicopter, did you?
He might have been there at some point.
Well, I'll tell you, on the music thing, I know I listened to other music when I was in Vietnam, but the only song that I can remember that plays through my head is one, 1, 2, 3, that's how elementary it's going to be. I mean, of course, the Special Forces guys are innovative, and after Barry Sadler come out with the Ballad of the Green Beret, somebody had the Vietnamese make some music boxes, and they were selling them out of one of the B detachments for $5 a piece that played Ballad of the Green Beret.
No kidding, man.
I mean, it tinkled it out.
That is funny, man.
But, I mean, it's amazing. I know I listened to other music when I was over there, but just that, and that guy sang it was Lynn Barry, and that's the only thing I can remember.
It's etched into your mind.
Right.
That is pretty cool, man.
But
so you show up. I mean, is it hot? Is it like what's going on?
Well, my initial thing when I was before I even got on the ground in Vietnam. Our plane was coming into Ben Hoa Air Base, and we couldn't land because they were being mortared.
Dang, no kidding.
Yeah,
man.
they were under rocket mortar attack. So we had to circle for a while before we come down, and I wound up spending the night there at Ben Hoa, what they used to call Long Binh Junction or Camp LBJ. And they had a water faucet, no basin or anything. So I'm having to clean up, with just water running out of a pipe. And initially, it was really kind of a shock, but I don't remember a whole lot of outside of that. And
Now, were you with your whole unit?
no,
When-
no, when I got there, we went to the. My initial thought was I was going to be a military advisor, and then I found out I was assigned to S.O.G.
How did you get involved with S.O.G, and what is S.O.G, Bo?
Well, S.O.G was a Joint Special Operations. We were under one command, but we had different ops, and we had Army Special Forces, Marine Force Recon, Navy SEALs, Air Commandos. If you look at the, this is actually was unofficial. That wasn't supposed to be in existence at the time. And but we did each of our own little thing. We each, the Army Special Forces, we worked under what they call Operation 35. And then you had like Operation 34 and 33, which I didn't get involved in. I was strictly with Op 35.
And did you volunteer for that, Bo? Or
99% of the people volunteered, even special ops people.
Yeah.
But you had myself. I just got my orders, and said, duty was S.O.G.
No kidding, man.
Yeah. I had.
So they just needed a body, and you were the one that got.
Yeah. Well, even with Op 35, sometimes our casualty rate was so high that we had to sneak a few Navy SEALs in over there to help us do things.
No kidding, man.
Yeah. I mean, but I had a dream, believe it or not, and I'm looking at this big board, and it's got names down, and then it's got unit assignments on it, and I get down to my name, and then it says S.O.G, and I'm like, what is S.O.G? And some guy come over and put his arm around me and said, "Man, you're in deep trouble." Well, he was right.
Oh man!
But I think I was telling him, a Navy commander come around. I never met the guy, but he wrote some articles many years later about S.O.G.
Mm-hmm.
And in one of them he said S.O.G guys made Rambo look like a Boy Scout. And I tell people, well, the guys I worked with made me feel like a Catholic choir boy. I mean, I worked with some hardcore dudes. Bob Howard was put in for the Congressional Medal of Honor 3 times, and he should have got it all 3 times. I mean, I worked with guys that you wouldn't believe. Jerry Shriver. That guy, I mean, if you wanted to be with somebody in fighting unconventional war,
Yeah.
he was called, his nickname was Mad Dog Shriver, and he but a lot of people didn't know. I mean, he come across, I mean, he was big, bad, he was hardcore, he was tough, but underneath, he was actually afraid of dying.
Mm-hmm.
And he actually, said, and told his friends, I got to stop doing what I'm doing because, I'm a walking dead man.
Mm-hmm.
And in '69, after I left, he eventually got killed.
Man.
But
yeah, I mean, S.O.G, is that Special Observation Group? Is
Well,
that what it stands for?
Well, what it really, the whole thing was studies and observation.
Studies and Observation Group.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was just a cover for, special ops.
Yep. So you've been assigned to S.O.G when you ship off. So you're not with a whole company of soldiers.
Yeah.
And so you spend the night in this first spot that was being mortared, so you couldn't. It's the real deal coming in. You realize, oh
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
And then where do you go from there, Bo?
Well, they put me on a bus and took me into Saigon, and then eventually out to first Bommy Toot, which is our Ho Nok Tau, which was where FOB3 was located at. We had basically S.O.G was broke down into three areas. You had Command Control North, Command Control Central, and Command Control South. And under each one of those, you had two forward operating bases. Command Control North, most of the missions were into northern Laos or actually into North Vietnam. Command Control Central, it was located where you could run teams run missions into southern Laos and northern Cambodia, and Bommy 2, which was the Command and Control South, run missions primarily into Cambodia. So
Okay.
and we we had code names. Prairie Fire was pretty much Laos. Daniel Boone was Cambodia. And you had if you read any books by John Plaster, he wrote like I don't know, 3 or 4 books. Frank Miller wrote one. John Stryker Myers, he's written at least 1 or 2. I haven't read any of Stryker Myers' books, but you'll see they use the term recon team, RTs.
Yep.
But initially, we were called spike teams, STs, and so you had spike teams, which were usually 6 to 9 man teams. You had 2 to 3 Americans, and the rest were made up of indigenous people, either Mountainards, Vietnamese, or I'm losing my Chinese Nungs, but you never had a mixed team. You either had Mountainards, or your team was Vietnamese or.
Because they didn't get along. They didn't get along together.
No.
Yeah.
Not hardly.
So when you got to FOB3,
Yeah.
and FOB now stands for Forward Operating Base.
Yeah.
Same back then for the listeners. That's FOB, Forward Operating Base. So it's a small base, and it's forward. It's not in what the hub would have been Saigon.
Yeah.
So it's actually forward, so they can operate out of this.
Yeah.
When you get there, is that when you meet your other team members, Bo?
Yeah.
Okay.
You come in and initially, you have they run a recondo school over there, and usually all your team leaders, team leader is 1-0, and of course the assistant team leader is 1-1. Pretty much all your 1-0s had to go to recondo school. And of course, I pretty much eventually all you went to recondo school, and actually you started out training running in-country missions, and then eventually out to cross country, across border.
So your training was actual combat missions.
Right.
They were sending you on a combat mission as a training mission.
Right. Yeah.
It was just in country.
That's unbelievable, man. Like, what in the world?
Well, and another thing a lot of people don't think about, when we got assigned a mission, it wasn't like, okay, y'all going into Cambodia, this is what you're going to do, or you're going into Laos, this is what you're going to do, and you just load up and and head out. We knew weeks in advance where we were going and what we were going to do, and we would train. Actually, before every mission, we would train. we would practice what we called IA, immediate action. That's when you get hit. What do you do? How you react? And basically, it was just a takeoff of what used to be called fire and maneuver.
Yep.
You got some people firing, some people moving, firing, moving. Basically, it was but instead of using it to attack, we'd use it to try to break contact.
Break contact, yeah.
You'd stagger and fire, and move,
Yep.
And
we do the same. We get trained the same, even today, same thing. We call it an IAD.
Yeah.
Immediate action drill.
Yeah.
And we were similar in the SEAL platoons. We mainly trained to break contact because we're a small element.
Yeah.
We're not trying to flank or push through the target. We're trying to break, because you get compromised.
Yeah.
You're, more than likely the enemy's got more people than you've got.
Right. Yeah.
So,
oh yeah. Well, I mean, if you're on a spike team, you're definitely and you're going what we used to call going across the fence. Into I mean, there's nobody over there that likes you. I mean, and you're going to be outnumbered. In any situation. Yeah.
well,
I like to mess around with people sometimes, and I start out telling them something. They'll think they're going to hear something really important, and I tell them, I say, we were moving along a trail in southern Laos, and everything was quiet. It was nice. And all of a sudden, man, they were all over us. It was like 600 to 2. I mean, it was hand-to-hand combat at times. And said, whew, those are the two toughest guys we ever run across.
because that's all it took to outnumber you guys. Yeah.
And so, man, we thought we should get ready or something.
My gosh, man.
I've always liked to mess with people.
Oh yeah, no, I love it, Bo. And you get to FOB 3, and you join up with your team.
Yeah.
Is it who were do you remember who your American team members were on your first team?
The first team I was on was my 1-0 was Leo Seymour, and we had a mountain yard team.
Okay.
And it was just me and Seymour and 6 mountain yards. And the first mission I run was in July the 3rd of 67.
And now, was this an in-country training combat op?
This was actually the first real mission I run across border.
Okay. During any of those training ops, did you take contact or anything during that, or was that just generally getting you acclimated to that environment?
We very seldom had any real enemy contact with that.
Well, I want to hear about that first mission you ran across the fence, that first op, because this is just the things that you have done, Bo. That just nothing that I know of can compare to them, and I want these stories I want them to be out. So,
yeah. Well, we crossed into Laos, and we had moved off of the LZ quite a ways, and we decided to find a cover and a good concealment area, and we went to ground just to try to observe what we could see, and we had a I guess about a platoon size Viet Cong element that come past us, and so we got ready to. Seymour decided we needed to move, so we started to move out, and about that time we had another element come from a different direction, and so we got into a firefight, and we were trying to break contact, and we got divided up. We got separated, but we had a point where we were supposed to we had problems. We're supposed to meet up at
Rally up.
to rally up, and Seymour and I got split up, and I was with some of the yards, and a few was with Seymour, and Seymour wasn't there when we rallied up, and according to what some of the yards said, they saw him get hit in the head, and but there was conflicting stories. Some of them said he got hit in the head and he kept running, and some said he got hit in the head and they saw him go down.
Mm-hmm.
But needless to say, his body was never recovered, and he was carried as missing in action for a long period of time before he was eventually, they had a board and declared him KIA. But that was my first mission.
Your first stop and your 1-0
Yeah.
Gets KIA.
Yeah.
And
but the rest of us made it out.
In this scenario, you guys, first of all, you insert via helicopter.
Yeah, we went in chopper on LZ, and then we move off the LZ.
And what's your objective? Are you just trying to patrol to contact, or gather intel, or
gather intel? Observe, see what movements are going on,
and then when this firefight, when you do take contact in this, what's the terrain like on this first op? Is it super dense jungle, or what's it like?
Yeah, we were in a dense area, but there was a clearing, and we were observing the trails that were coming across that clearing area. I'm moving away from my microphone. I'm sorry, but we were initially just observing what was moving across them trails.
Okay,
but that was basically our mission, was just recon, check, see what movement was going on, what was what type of enemy was in the area.
Gotcha.
Now I found out later on, and General Sinlob, he was a colonel when he was chief of S.O.G, but he stated, a lot of times, it wouldn't have made any difference, but a lot of times we were inserted in the area just to see what the enemy reaction was going to be.
Yep.
Basically as bait, trying to pull out larger units to see what was there.
Yeah.
And, of course, we would have done it anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, after that first stop, you get in that firefight, you're 1-0.
Yeah.
Goes, how does that affect you, Bo? Because that's huge, man.
Yeah.
How do you move on from that and continue to operate?
Yeah. Well, initially, they moved me. We ran a jump school over down below, right down below Cameron Bay, a place called Dong Patin, and primarily we were training Vietnamese Rangers. It was a 2-week jump school basically.
Yeah.
And so they temporarily moved me down there because I was a little shaken up.
I bet, man.
I soon developed a twitch that which was just a nervous twitch all the time. I'd be walking along, I'd be jerking like that. But I stayed there for a while.
And on that first op, how long, duration wise, how long were you on the ground before you were extracted from that scenario?
Just a couple hours.
Couple hours.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we hadn't moved that far away really from the LZ, and we had panels, and they changed. They had letters, like in November, and extraction panels. We put the panel out, and so they'd know where we were at, and of course, you had the flares, we got pretty much back to another LZ where we could get out and got our panels out, and they come in and got us out.
Man.
Seymour was the only casualty that we had.
But that was your buddy. I mean, that was your only other American on the team. So, I mean, that had to have been
Seymour had been, he was actually a former Marine, so, he'd been in the Marine Corps prior to getting out and joining the Army, similar to what my dad did.
Yeah.
And
so you get back from this op, and then you need a little bit of time to process what just happened.
Yeah.
And so you go down to jump school. So where do you go from there? And how was that? Did it help you kind of?
Well, yeah.
It's not like you're coming back to the States, but
yeah, it's kind of let me get my mind back together again. It shook me up. I'm not kidding you. I mean, when I initially came back, I was working the operations. Kind of like an operations NCO, and then I went up to command control, central, and stayed there, and then I eventually wound up back down south. And before I left out, there was a lieutenant colonel by the name of Drake that kind of liked me, and he was wanting me to, kind of laterally transfer over to a C detachment, C5, which was at Honoktow, which was where I was at, and they were trying to get me to extend and stay over, but I wanted to be back home, with my wife and my family, so but I would have went back again, there was a lot of different things going on. One time, we went into Laos, and it was really weird because everywhere we went, we always had the impression and actually believed sometimes they'd actually avoid contact with us, but they'd try to be moving us in a direction that like they were hurting us, like they wanted
to funnel you into something.
Into that or where we couldn't get out. And in this particular instance, no matter which way we moved, we were coming in contact with NVA, North Vietnamese regulars. And we could go right, we could go left, we could backtrack, we could do anything we wanted to. So we come to that conclusion. They're trying to move us into an area where either we can't be extracted or
ambush or something.
Yeah. So my 1-0, he come to determination. We're going to find a place, and where we can make a stand. We're going to set up an ambush, and we're going to end this one way or the other. We're either going to die or we're going to get out. And so we come to this large clearing, and we moved around the clearing, and on the opposite side of the clearing, the ground was sloping down, so we had good cover, and we just went to ground, and we waited to see what was going to happen, and a large unit came in. We could see them across the clearing. They were and they stopped at the edge of the clearing, and then they sent two squads out to either side, and then there was about 11, 12, 13 people just come out, and they started walking towards us, and or where we were at. They didn't see us, but they were walking towards where we were at. And then they stopped, and they sat down, and they started smoking cigarettes, and they're talking, and we're just wondering, waiting to see what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, one of the yards cocked his 45. And that was the loudest noise I've ever heard in my life. I mean, and as soon as he did that and we heard that click, we opened fire and we took out all the ones that were sitting there in front of us. They were only like about 10 meters away from us.
God,
10 meters?
Yeah.
Wow, man.
And I mean, as soon as we took them out, we're running. I mean, they were firing at us from across the clearing, or where we were at, but we're going down the slope and everything's going over our heads. And we finally got to a good LZ, and we got extracted out. And as it turned out, what probably saved our lives, it turned out that was their command unit that had come up and was set down. And they had the radio operators with them. So we took out the rest of them, they didn't know really what to do, so they're just shooting, at us. And but if we hadn't took out their command unit, we'd have probably all been dead. It was
Gosh almighty.
And was that the same kind of team setup that you had before, where you had 1-1-0, and then you had?
Well, I had I was kind of like the RTO on that one. We had a 1-0 and a 1-1, and I was kind of like the 1-2 or the RTO.
Okay.
I can't imagine being laid up in an ambush position and having a team of 12 NVA basically sit down 10 meters from me smoking cigarettes and chat. No wonder you guys jumped when the guy cocked his 45.
Do you think they saw you?
Huh?
Do you think they saw you? Think he was about to shoot?
No, I don't. We didn't know. I mean, I know they had to hear it. It just sounded extraordinarily loud to me. But we had some hardcore guys. I mean, we had some tough guys. Roy Benavides, Bob Howard, Frank Miller. Miller died of cancer in 2002. Bob Howard died about 10 days before Christmas of 2010. I mean, I couldn't compare to some of them guys. I mean, they were unbelievable. Musso, Wright, Al Menderes, Sullivan, Harry Brown. I wasn't on the team, but they went in on the 12th of July. They went into northern Laos, and it was at that particular time that we kind of figured out, somehow people were knowing the Viet Cong and the NVA. They knew kind of like where we were coming in at, what LZs, because we always had flyovers. We didn't. You just didn't randomly go in. We had flyovers that before we'd go in and.
So some intel was getting leaked out to them somewhere.
And the reason we started suspecting this is because Al Menderes and them they were waiting for him. I mean, and it wasn't your average NVA or your average Viet Cong. They were Russian trained North Vietnamese Special Forces.
Okay.
And they were waiting. And Sullivan and Al Menderes, they were taken out. I mean, they were gone. I mean, just bam, they're gone. And
Immediately once they got off the insert platform,
Yeah.
the helicopter.
yeah,
Yeah.
Brown was the only one that actually made it out alive. Brown, from his elbow all the way up to his shoulder, it was just like somebody had just chopped all the meat off his arm. I mean,
almighty.
just I guess from rounds going by. He had fragments of his own car 15 in his abdomen because rounds had hit his car 15, and
Man.
and he had like 29, 30 some odd grenade fragment wounds in his back.
Good gosh almighty, man.
And when we went in, we went in to get him out. We had to drag him on the chopper because he wanted to stay in the fight.
Hey.
And they sent him back to Tachikawa to the hospital in Japan. And as soon as he was well, he was right back over there again,
Man.
ready to go again.
Well,
And,
I want to talk. I want to ask you too, Bo. You guys are going into these. You guys are going over the fence to in a small team.
yeah.
To potentially, or almost every time you're engaging a larger enemy force. What kind of gear did y'all carry as far as weapons, ammo? I mean, you had to been loaded for bear, man.
Yeah, I carried, I at a minimum, I carried at least 400 rounds for whatever weapon I carried. Sometimes I carried, I like to carry a car, not a car, one of the old 30 caliber carbines. But I like the car 15. It was like a shrunk down version of the M16 rifle, and you'd carry it slung over your shoulder almost like a purse, and you could actually fire it with one hand, and I'd usually try to carry most of my mags over here on the left side so I could be firing and going for
And reloading. Good gosh almighty, man.
reloading.
Yeah. No body armor.
No. We had enough equipment, and we carried. You could carry. Had some what we call toe poppers. They were like little M14, and you could carry like 10 or 15 of them in a pocket, And they weren't going to probably kill anybody, but they just going to mess you up, and sometimes, I like to use them if we were suspecting we were being tracked, or like we'd been made contact and then we broke contact and we figured they'd be tracking us, put some of the toe poppers out, a good place was like if you had a fallen, like a tree down or something, that they're going to have to come over, put the toe poppers on the other side. So when they come over,
He's going to step right there on the other side.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. And,
Yeah.
But one time, which excuse me, went into Cambodia, and we got into a firefight, and we went in emergency action, immediate action, and we managed to break contact. So but we kind of figured they was going to be tracking us, So me and Adams kind of dropped back behind the rest of the team, and we were putting out some toe poppers, set up a few booby traps, and in the meantime, while we were doing that, another Kong patrol came and got between us and the rest of the team. So we're fighting from this side. The rest of the guys are on the other side, and we can't get back to them. So me and Adams, we all, we put the feet to the ground, and we were trying to break contact, and fortunately we got into some elephant grass, and elephant grass is really, really tall, and good concealment. So we got into the elephant grass, and we went to ground, and we just laid there. And then we saw but we could see the movement of the grass as they were moving through, and we could hear them talking. They were looking for us, and so we lobbed a couple of frags, fired off a couple of mags, and we got up. We booked it off again, and we went to ground again, and we waited, and pretty much the repeat of the first time, and we did that like 3 times, and finally, the 4th time we laid there and we waited and we waited. We didn't see any more movement, and we're thinking, well, maybe they thought we were too crazy to leave us alone. So, but anyway, you had the S.O.G Bay, which is a river that runs through Cambodia. It comes off of the Mekong, but it runs through Cambodia and crosses over into to Vietnam, down close to the Delta, and right there where you cross over into Vietnam, we had a radio relay site, and usually there was a 200-man indigenous team guarding the radio relay site. So we just followed along the S.O.G Bay. Sometimes we'd have to cover, to go to ground cover, or sometimes we'd be in the river.
And just this is you and Adams.
Yeah, and we finally got down to where we crossed over and got to Golf Fire Radio Relay site. Caught a chopper back to Dock Toe, and got back. The rest of the team was there. Everybody, we all made it out unscathed.
Man, this is unbelievable, Bo. I mean, to think you and your team member, Adams, break away to fall back and set some booby traps for this large enemy force that's tracking you. You have another enemy force move in, split your platoon in half.
Yeah.
Well, not even in half. It's you two and then your indigenous force on the other side.
Yeah.
And so you guys just continue to bound and work together until you finally break contact. Then you just hit the river, follow the river down, catch a ride back to base. I mean, that stuff don't happen anymore, Bo.
Yeah, I know it.
I mean,
well, needless to say, it aged me quite a few years.
Dude, how did you, how did you get through this, Bo? I mean, I just couldn't imagine that. I could try to imagine, but I've never been in situations like that. I mean, nowadays you've always got comms.
Yeah.
You've got all this technology. You've got all this stuff. You guys are just out there in the jungle, making it happen and staying alive, man.
Yeah.
I mean, how did you stay calm in these situations and actually execute the plan and stay alive?
Well, a lot of times, when we'd go to ground, I mean, we'd have VC, walking, almost stepping on us. I mean, we'd go to ground and be undercover, I kind of had this thought in my mind, sometimes was, I'm a log,
Yeah.
I'm hoping, that it might penetrate,
Yeah.
But, I mean, that's the way it was, sometimes you hadn't, you had no choice, I'll tell you one thing my wife told me, and I don't know why she brought it up. We were just laying in bed one night, and she told me, she said, I was worried my brothers weren't going to make it back from Vietnam alive. She said, but I always knew you would come back. And I said, well, what makes you say that? She said, because that's what you do. You survive.
Wow, man.
I don't know. Shoot, they can wait. I've always, when I get in a firefight, it was just like, I would do what I was trained to do,
Mm-hmm.
it was kind of like, be kind of like my mind is up here watching my body do these things, and and thinking, you got me into this, now get me out.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I don't know. I've always done that. It just, I have a survival instinct. I guess I don't know if it's something, where it comes from, but I react and to stay alive.
Yeah. Yeah. And I imagine you guys took your training very seriously.
Oh, yeah.
Within your units.
Yeah. And that's you talk about, training, to go over there, we trained all the time anyway, we trained for every mission, we'd go over and over, well, it's like going to jump school. You can learn to jump from an airplane, in no time at all. But if you want to do it and do it right, you got to do it through repetition. You do it,
Yep.
do it, and do it, and do it. So you don't have to think about it. You do it instinctively, because if you don't have that instant reaction and do it right, you could be dead, seriously hurt.
That's right.
And so that's where the repetition comes in. You just do it over and over and over again till you don't have to think about it. You just do it.
You build that muscle memory.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you just do it.
Blake, I hadn't even given you a chance to ask any questions, man. I'm sorry.
Let's take a break real quick.
Let's take a little break real quick.
Okay.
All right. Hey, guys, have I told you about my bushcraft necklace from Wazoo Survival Gear? Well, you need to get you one, because it's a really sharp piece of gear that you can wear around your neck every day. That's what I do. And it gives you the capabilities to start a fire in any weather condition, in any temperature, in any scenario. And fire is very important to your survival as a human being. If you find yourself in a tight spot, right? We can cook over it. We can get warm from it. We can purify water over it. There's a lot of things that we can do with fire. And Wazoo Survival Gear makes products that allow us to have that capability anytime, any place, anywhere. Guys, tools increase your capability. More capability gives you more options. More options gives you the freedom to choose where you go, where you explore, the things you do. That's where Wazoo Survival Gear comes in. It's the perfect melding of form and function that allows you to build a wide variety of tools into your everyday wear. This stuff is awesome, guys. I've been using Wazoo Survival Gear products for well over a year now. Every time we go out on the basic course, every time I'm stepping off on a mission, and a lot of their products are just with me day in and day out, like my bushcraft necklace, like my cash cap, just going through regular everyday life. They're an awesome company, 100% made in America. Awesome dudes, Dustin and Nick. You've probably heard them. They've done an episode on the 307 podcast. Go give them some support, man, at wazoosurvivalgear.com. I promise you, you will not be disappointed. As a matter of fact, I've attached a link to their website in the show notes of this episode, a special link for you guys. When you go and place your order with Wazoo, they've given us a pro code that's going to give you 20% off your order. The pro code is the number 3 of the number 7, all caps. That's the best deal you're going to find on Wazoo Survival Gear products anywhere. They asked me how I wanted to split this up. I could get 10% back on the purchases that you guys made using this pro code, and y'all could get 10% off. I said, no, give the customer 20% off. Give the podcast listener 20% off, because you guys have rewarded me by showing up and listening to this show. So I want you to have the full discount. This company doesn't put their stuff on sale because this stuff is all handmade. And yeah, it's not stuff that goes on sale or expires. So it's a great deal. Go check them out, wazoosurvivalgear.com. Follow them on Instagram at Wazoo Survival Gear. Thanks a lot, guys. Enough said.
Hello, I'm Johnny Cash.
We got you loud and clear. We're back. If you can't tell, Bo was just talking to us about the Tet offensive, and I don't want to skip over, but I just want you to whatever's on your heart. I know that sounded interesting.
Yeah. Well, from the pictures there, were. The Viet Cong launched all-out assault for the Tet of 68. Tet is the Chinese New Year, and it doesn't occur like ours does on New Year's Day, the 1st of January. Theirs comes later in the year, and we were telling everybody, we were running our recon, we were gathering intelligence, and we were telling them, look, you got a lot of equipment, a lot of people moving down through Cambodia, through Laos, through Cambodia. There's something going to happen. And they're like, no, we have a ceasefire for Tet. Yeah, but they've got a lot of equipment, a lot of people moving down.
You guys were seeing it out in the field.
Yeah, we were seeing
observing it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so what happened was on Tet, morning of the Tet, real early, about 3:30, something like in the morning, they hit Saigon, they hit Hue, they hit just about, they hit all installations all throughout South Vietnam. And the reality of it was it cost them dearly, but it cost us a lot too. They actually had control of the American embassy in Saigon for temporarily, and they had to put troops on top of the embassy to clear them out. But it was, it was a total wreck for both sides, and but what perturbs me the most is a lot of times things like that, we could give them intel and they would ignore it. But it was really devastating for the Viet Cong. I was in House 10, which was supplies, we kept supplies for our indigenous people that we trained, clothing, equipment, and things like that.
Was this on Fob 3, or where were you located?
This was near Tan Son Nhut Air Base.
Okay.
Which was hit heavily. Tan Son Nhut was hit heavily. And after the initial attacks and everything, I was going back to my unit, and I went by Puteaux racetrack, which was a old French racetrack, and they had Viet Cong bodies stacked up like firewood. I mean, it cost us dearly, but the Viet Cong suffered greatly. Mm-hmm. And if we had made a determination that we were going to win the war, we could have done it then, if we had done what we were supposed to do.
Yep.
But I kind of put it. I use the example, like if you were a football team and they told you, well, you can keep the football till you get to the 50-yard line, then you had to stop.
Yep.
And there's no way you're going to win a war, if you're not going to go all out to do it. And this is just my opinion. We could have won the Vietnam War, but we were afraid. Our political leaders were afraid we might wind up in a direct confrontation with the Chinese and the Russians, but we could have ended it. But we were playing half of a football field.
Politics.
Yep.
Yep.
And
well, what was that day like for you when that Tet offensive launched, Bo? Can you walk me through that day from the time either you woke up and what it was like experiencing that and being in that country when that happened? I think that's a wonderful thing to hear about.
Well, like I said, I actually went to House 10 that night, and
were you staying there at that
yeah,
house? There's some barracks in there?
Well, I spent the night at House 10, and like I said, the initial assaults took place early in the morning, like around 3:30, and House 10 wasn't directly attacked itself, but we're close to Tonsanute Air Base, and they were directly hit, and.
Could you hear the gunfire, or was it mortars, and how did they launch?
Mortars, rockets.
Okay.
And you could hear at Tonsanute, they had quad 50s, talking about quad 50 caliber machine guns, and there's no mistaking a quad 50.
I bet. I've never even seen one, but I know I've shot plenty of those 50 cal mod deuce, and that thing thumps.
Yeah, and I knew it was going on, but pretty much we were just maintaining. We were kind of doing a security guard, around House 10, but we were never actually hit. And after that, some of us younger guys, they pulled us back in because S.O.G headquarters was located at that time in Cholon, which is a Chinese district of Saigon. And pretty much their sole protection was through the Vietnamese National Police. So they pulled some of us young guys from our bases and provide security for S.O.G headquarters, which it was never actually hit. We were fired upon a couple of times, but we were never actually hit, which brings me to kind of a little humor in the deal. Was S.O.G. It had buildings around, kind of like a big courtyard, and then it had buildings, other buildings around it, and so I was up on one of the roofs, and I don't know where the rounds were coming from, but occasionally I hear a round ping off, and it had an old slate type tile roof to it, and I hear a round crack off of one of them slate roofs. So I had my buddy Carl Martin was coming up to relieve me, and so he's coming, kind of bent over, across the slate roof. He's got his bush hat pushed back on his head like that. And all of a sudden, I hear the round crack. I heard it go by me, and it took its bush hat right off his head. I mean, if it had round been just that much lower, it took the top of his head off.
Good gosh almighty.
But it sailed his bush hat out across the compound. And believe it or not, I've never seen anybody break through a slate roof. He went right through the top of that slate roof. Down through it was. I mean, it wasn't funny at the time, but later on, I'm thinking, it reminded me. There used to be an old World War II cartoon. The two World War II guys. One of them says, "Man, we got to get lower," and he said, "I can't get any lower, Willie. Me buttons is in the way." I'm thinking about, I don't know how he did it, but he literally busted through that slate roof down into the room below.
Well, I'm gonna tell you what, Bo. When you get your hat shot off the top of your head, you're gonna be getting as low as you possibly can, and that roof was just in between him and as low as he could possibly get.
Yeah. I run across Martin again later on in Germany with the 509th. He was with the 509th Airborne.
What a story, man!
But I had to interject that in there. But anyway, that's what I did for a while before I went back, and after that, I run just a few missions. Didn't have much contact or anything. And that's the way it was sometimes. Sometimes, you go and nothing happened. You know, but you never knew what to expect.
I want to hear too, Bo, your perspective on your enemy. How did you guys view your enemy? One, personally, did you have some sort of did you have a hatred for them? Did you have a respect for them? How did you view your enemy?
Well, I had no love lost for them. But I did respect the fact that they were, they were good at what they did, and in some cases, I've got a weapon at my house. It's a Russian Mosin Nagant, and it's bolt action, and in some cases that was their arms, compared to what we had. Some of the Viet Cong had basic, World War II type weapons,
Yeah.
So, I think, gratefully so, some of them were very poor shots, which I admired greatly. And, but they were very good at unconventional war. I mean, and that's what you have to do. When you're, even though like when we were on a team, and we'd cross the fence into Indian country, we were outnumbered. But when they were going against U.S. units in Vietnam,
more conventional type battles.
Yeah, I mean they were out-weaponed, basically. They might have numbers sometimes, but as far as weapons went, a lot of the now the North Vietnamese regulars, that was a different story. I mean they were Russian trained, they were well armed, but your average Viet Cong, they weren't all that well armed, compared to what we had.
And was the Viet Cong just essentially a militia unit?
Yeah, they were kind of like a rebel. I'm trying to think of what it compared to, but like when our country was fighting for independence. The best thing American had to go for it was, like the hunters, the ranchers, the farmers.
That's right.
The
woodsmen. They knew the land. They knew the environment.
And the British, for a long time had that, idea. You just stand up and march into, fighting, and and a lot of the Americans, when we were fighting our independence, like you said, they were hunters. They knew how to fight in the woods, like the Indians fought. So
how would you know the difference on the battlefield between a North Vietnamese regular unit or soldier and a Viet Cong soldier?
Pretty much by the way they're dressed, their uniforms, and I want to. While I'm thinking about it, it just popped in my head, and I want to point out something that's never mentioned a lot. You don't hear about it, but they actually had Chinese military advisors, and I can tell you right now, Dickie Meadows was outstanding. Special Forces recon guy.
I've heard the name. Yeah.
Dickie Meadows. He went to a meeting with Westmoreland and all of them there, because he brought up that about the Chinese advisors, and he was told, "Don't ever say that again. Don't
Politics.
Don't ever mention to anybody about Chinese advisors. That's it. Fini."
What was the reason for that, Bo?
They didn't want the American people to know that Chinese were involved in the thing. But we knew. We killed. They pretty much they stayed in Cambodia and Laos. They didn't come across the border that much. If they did, it was just barely across the border, because they could make a quick exit if they had to. But we've killed Chinese advisors, and we killed Russian advisors, but we weren't allowed to talk about it. That
Wow.
wasn't, again, come up with the fact they didn't want to, our political leaders didn't want to get in a direct conflict with Russian and Chinese, so they downplayed all that stuff.
That had to have been so tough for you guys, as the guys on the ground putting your neck out on the line every time you guys cross the border to gather this intel, and then they just basically want to sweep it under the rug. I mean, that's a whole nother element of stress on you guys.
Yeah. Well, that was the one thing about Dickie Meadows. You don't tell Dickie Meadows, what you're saying is not true, because he'd go out and get proof and bring it back and dump it on.
You guys were no bull crap.
Dickie Meadows was known to, he'd be, within just meters of Viet Cong or NVA moving, and he'd be taking pictures and 8mm videos of, and he didn't mind. He didn't mind bringing them back and taking them into S.O.G headquarters and saying, "Here, take these over to Westmoreland and dump them on his desk and show him."
Wow, man.
I don't mean to talk y'all's ears
No,
off.
this is awesome, Bo.
But,
I love it, man.
Yeah. There was a special forces camp right on Lang Vay, which was right on the Laos Vietnamese border. And we kept trying to tell them, look, the NVA have Russian tanks in Laos. And no, you're wrong. No, there's no Russian tanks there. You're probably just seeing evidence of heavy equipment, et cetera, et cetera. Well, Lang Vay got overrun by Russian tanks. We had to go in to ourselves to get them out. We didn't get it. We didn't have any other regular military units to go in. Mm-hmm. It was us. We had to go in there and try to save the guys that were pinned down.
Gosh, dog.
The command bunker, they had run a tank right up on it, and they were trying to crush it in on the guys. They couldn't get in and get them out, but they were trying to crush it in. So we had to, physically just combine a bunch of teams together, and which we could. I can go into that later, but to go in and rescue the guys, and it turned out Lang Vay was overrun, 2 or 3 different times. Primarily because of its location, But again, if the thing, we were providing them with intel that they ignored, you know.
And then you having to clean up the mess.
Yeah, pretty much.
And when y'all did that specific op right there, you said you combined some teams together.
Yeah.
And then you guys, how did you guys? I mean, obviously it's already hot. They're being overran. How did y'all handle that?
Well, I'll go to that. You know, like I said, we had spot teams.
Yeah.
Which was usually 6 to 9 men, 2 to 3 Americans, the rest indigenous. We got to the point where we created we had a havoc force, or we had a hatchet force, a havoc force, and a hatchet force was like a platoon size, about 40 people, you know.
Okay.
And usually, 4 or 5 Americans, the rest indigenous. And then we could also assemble a havoc force, which was about company size. And so we were that didn't happen instantly. It took a period of time to get that built up, and so we could put a larger team in. Matter of fact, when Bob Howard was put in for the Medal of Honor one time, he was with a hatchet force, but he at the time he wasn't the 1-0. They had a captain that was 1-0, and the 1-0 is supposed to be the last man out.
Yeah.
He's the last guy out. The captain was the 1-0. The captain was the first one out. He went out with the wounded and everything. Bob Howard was the last one out. They put him in for the Medal of Honor, put the captain in for the Silver Star, which, needless to say, said captain had to leave the area if he didn't want to be one of the people that was KIA.
Oh, I bet.
And but anyway, apparently the upper echelon, the opinion was, well, we can't give Bob Howard the Medal of Honor or recommend him for the Medal of Honor. Send it on up, and the captain only the Silver Star.
Because it makes the captain look bad, even though he was the one that showed poor leadership that day.
Yeah. So they dropped Bob Howard down to the Silver Star. But I give you an idea of some of the guys like I worked with. Bob Howard run alongside an NVA truck, threw a Claymore mine through the window, and then detonated it.
Somebody, man. What's going on with this guy? I mean, you knew these guys. I mean,
well, like I said,
you worked with them alongside of them.
Well, I told you what they made me feel like.
Gosh,
I mean, I was like an innocent baby compared to some of these guys, and and I thought I was pretty good, but but I worked for some crazy people. I mean, but I'd say Bob Howard was put in 3 times. I do believe, and I can't say this definitely, but at one time, I believe he later on became the most decorated soldier ever. In military history. I'm trying. I know at one time Audie Murphy was, and I'm trying to think of I'm trying to think of this other guy's name, but I think eventually Bob Howard became the most decorated.
This is just so amazing that you knew these men. You were on the ground. It's like just unbelievable, Bo.
Yeah.
I mean,
but like I said, there was let me if you don't mind, let me tell you a little bit about. He was the chief of S.O.G when I was there.
So he's like the commanding officer of S.O.G essentially.
Yeah.
Okay.
There was another gentleman before him, and then after him. But the guy I was Chief S.O.G when I was there, John K. Sinlob. He was the full colonel at the time. When World War II broke out, he was a young airborne lieutenant. And he was recruited for the OSI, which later became the CIA. And he and two other men were parachuted into France to organize guerrilla resistance against the Nazis. And that was his thing. I mean, if they'd let him run the whole thing in Vietnam, I have no doubt in my military mind that we wouldn't have ended that and won that thing.
Yep.
I mean, there wouldn't have been anything moving down that what they call the Ho Chi Minh Trail, which was actually a variety of little trails coming down.
Mm-hmm.
One of his ideas was he wanted to organize a 3,000-man guerrilla force, strictly staying in Cambodia, strictly staying in Laos, and with U.S. Supplied equipment and and support, and we would have shut down. There wouldn't have been nothing moved down through Cambodia and Laos. We would have stopped it right then and there.
You would have just choked the enemy off from any resupplies, or
yeah. But naturally, he was forced to retire by President Carter, because he pretty much said Carter was an idiot.
Wow, man.
But
there again, you guys are stuck on the 50-yard line, right?
Yeah. But he eventually retired as a major general. But when Carter was wanting to pull troops out of Korea, he was telling, hey, you pull troops out of Korea, they're the only things that keeping the Chinese from supporting a North Korean invasion of South Korea. And all you're going to do is we're going to have to go back and retake everything all over again.
Mm-hmm.
And so he disagreed with Carter on that. And he disagreed with Carter with them turning over the Panama Canal to who was the leader then, Noriega.
Yep.
Who he called a half-baked demagogue. And so he was eventually forced into retirement. And I don't remember if you remember the Contra thing where they were, Oliver North was involved in it. They were supplying arms to the guerrillas to fight the communists down in South America. His name was John K. Sinlob, but I tell people, some people called him Jack, but nobody that was under his command ever called him Jack.
I heard that, man.
People above him could call him Jack.
Yeah.
But they asked him, they were asking him a question about, about a missing $800 or $8 million or $800 million or something, and if he knew where it was at. And he told him, he said, if I knew where it was at, he said, I'd be buying guns for them people fighting the communists down in South America, So that, but...
So he was a man among men for sure, and it sounds like a tactical genius. And
he was, and he was, and he was ideal suited for an unconventional war.
Yeah.
Because that was his background, that was his training. And what was really strange, I was reading a book here a couple of years back. A guy wrote a book called Born to Ranger, and he had joined up right before, right at the beginning of the Korean War, and he went to Ranger School, and I'm reading in the book, and it turns out one of his instructors at Ranger School was my old boss in Vietnam. My old boss in
I'll
Vietnam,
be dang, man.
John K. Sinlob. But I got to see him a couple of times after Vietnam, and the last time I saw him, I was a weapons instructor, and he come down to speak at a AUSA meeting, and he said, I was thinking about what I should be speaking about. He said, I don't know if I should be talking about, the dumb idea of pulling troops out of South Korea or turning the Panama Canal over to a half-baked demagogue. And he said, I don't want to be controversial, so after contemplating the whole thing, he said, I want to talk about motor maintenance in the motor pool.
I want to be controversial.
And so after it was over, I went up, and, I told him, I said, at the time he was a general, and I told him, I said, General, I said, right now that if we ever get in a war again, you better be looking because I'm coming your way, And he said, Sergeant Jordan, he said, come on, buddy.
That's what I'm thinking, Bo, is like, even though you guys were stuck at the 50-yard line and, like you said, you're gathering all this intel and you're seeing it's not being used properly, it's still got to be nice to work for men like that.
Yes.
They got your back. They know at least the man that you're reporting to is a solid individual.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love the guy, and I loved military leaders. Mm-hmm. You got too many of them now, or half military and half politician. Mm-hmm. And
almost all of them are.
With the military leader, you know what to expect. You know what they're going to do. With the politician, it's kind of like that weed in the wind.
Yep.
They're going to go whichever the way the wind blows.
Yep.
But with John Sinlob, you knew that if you did what you were supposed to do military, he was going to have you back. He was going to be with you.
That means a lot. Yeah.
And
well, how long was your tour total over there?
Just 1 year.
1 year, just a year. That's all.
Yeah.
That was a jam-packed year too.
Yes,
huh?
it was. Like I said, they were trying to get me to extend and go to a C detachment out of 5th Special Forces Group, which was right down near Command Control South. And but I wanted to get back home. I had a young wife, young kids, and as it turned out, I went to Germany and I was there for almost 3 years, and then by the time I got back, it was starting to wind down. So I didn't go back again. But
how long did that whole war last?
Basically, I would say from like maybe if you go on what you see or read, basically from about 1960 to about 1972.
Okay.
But a lot of people don't know this, but we actually had people working over there unknown that were already there. And actually, the first casualty was a captain in 1959, I believe. Oh. Before,
yeah, we had American. Basically, they were probably an advise and assist role for the South Vietnamese.
Yeah, we had like our American, working in Cambodia and Laos, before. But I tell people, and I know people probably think I'm crazy, but you got what you call black ops, then you got blacker ops, and then you got blacker ops.
Yeah.
There's different levels to black ops, I'm sorry.
No, you fine.
And all of our vehicles were painted black in Vietnam. Our vehicles, S.O.G vehicles, were black.
Uh-huh.
Our any C-130s were black. We called them blackbirds.
What kind of helicopters did y'all use, Bo? Did y'all use the Huey or
we used Hueys and also H-34s. The old H-34 was used. we had actual, usually we got our air support from from the aviation units over there, but we had we had our own some facilities.
Did you guys have close air support
Yes.
that you could call in when you took contact?
Yeah, we had what we call a cubby leader. He was flying overhead all the time.
Okay.
And he wasn't flying the plane, but he was there's small aircraft usually propelled. Because you're going fast, you ain't going.
Yeah.
And you had cubby leaders, and the cubby leader was always a veteran, S.O.G veteran. I'm talking about somebody that already had run recon, and he maintained contact with cubby leader, and cubby leader would call in air support or whatever we need. We most of the time we did have air support. I mean, and if we were close enough to the border, sometimes you could get support from the artillery units, but mostly it was air. Either Hueys or in some cases, we had bigger aircraft, come in.
Well, that's a genius idea to have that covey leader up in a small aircraft.
Yeah.
It's a small target, but he's maneuverable.
Yeah.
And he's a guy that understands
What's
what
going on.
you guys are going through on the ground.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And there's another thing. I don't care what rank you were. I mean, even if you outranked the 1-0, the 1-0 was the command. I don't care if you had a staff sergeant E6 that's 1-0, and you had a new lieutenant that was training. 1-0 is the boss.
Yep.
I don't care if you're a full bird colonel and you're on that chopper going in with a team just to observe. The 1-0 is the boss. That's it.
Yeah.
Hey, no, rank immaterial.
And I think that's the way it should be in a special operations unit.
Yeah.
Especially specialized as S.O.G, I mean.
Yeah. I mean, the 1-0 was the man. He was the boss. Frank Miller, who also won the Congressional Medal of Honor, by the way. Well, I still call it Congressional. I think they just call it the Medal of Honor now. But he came to us out of the 1st Cav. He was long-range recon and 1st Cav. Like my younger brother was also long-range recon with 1st Cav. And he was a 1-0 as an E5, and he had E6s and E7s on his team sometimes, because he was that good. Miller was good. His real name is Frank Miller, but he was called Doug. That was his call name, Doug.
Okay. And that's that to me, you guys were because there's only 2 of you guys, generally Americans, on a
spike team.
A spike team.
Yeah.
You had to have the best dude in that 1-0 position. So
Right.
you were assessing, hey, does this guy have really the necessary skills to fill this position? You're not looking at the rank, and that's important. And that's one of the great things about special operations. We still, in a way, utilize that same type of community aspect, because in SEAL training we go through the exact same training, officers and enlisted side by side. There's no difference. And I think that's one thing that sets us all apart.
Well, the other thing is, I mean, there was, I think I just messed up. There was never any doubt about it. There was never any confrontation about it. I mean, that was it. I mean, if you're, whatever your rank was, I mean, if you're on a team and you're going in the 1-0 is the guy. You know.
Yep.
I mean, and you know, there was never any argument about it. No, everybody understood that. You know, the young lieutenants, you know, they understood it. They, and you know, and that was, you know,
necessary to survive.
That was it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And but since I'm on the on Frank Miller, his team got in the world of hurt. I mean, they were in deep trouble, and we were trying to get air support into them, and we had what I'll get into bright light teams later on, or in a minute, but he had just about everybody in his team had been hit, wounded, and he got them into an old bomb crater. And he himself had a round hit him in the chest and come out his back, and he took his poncho liner. He laid on his poncho, wrapped it all the way around him, and tied it down. And the Viet Cong were trying to creep in on his position, and he was outside of the crater, killing Viet Cong that was trying to come in on his guys, until we finally got got air support in there and got a team in to get him out. And he had also been shot through the arm, and that's when he won the Medal of Honor.
Still fighting.
Yeah, I mean, he was his sole purpose was to keep the Viet Cong off his team and keep his team out. I mean, I can tell you some stories. It's hard to believe sometimes, you know, what some of these guys did, but he that was just the type of guy Miller was. Like I said, he died 2002 from cancer, and but he was good man.
Different type. Yeah, different type of man. I mean, it's just the freedom of movement that you guys had. The freedom of movement and the responsibility that you guys had as teams across the fence.
Yeah.
It was on you, man.
Yeah.
It was on you to stay alive. I mean, it's just different.
Yeah.
And this is one thing I think a lot of civilians don't understand is they find themselves in a position in their lives and they think, well, somebody's going to tell me what I should do. Somebody's going to tell me how to get out of this. Somebody's going to show me the way. Yeah. Well, you guys had to make those decisions up and make it happen.
Yeah.
They're relying on that here in the States, that is. They're relying on that on something small. These guys are making a decision on their life.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and like I said, you know, it goes into training. It goes into hours and hours and hours of repetition of just doing things, and so you act instinctively based on, you know, your training, the repetition. I know it's a, you know, I mean, when I was going through jump school, I mean, there was times, you know, when I'm like, what am I doing here? You got to be the dumbest man in the world, you know. And but you know, you did that. One more day, I'm gonna do it. One more day, one more day, one more day. And I tell people, you know, sometimes you have to think a bit if you're going to quit. The second time you quit, it becomes easier. And then the third time, you don't even have to think about it. You just quit, you know. So you got to keep going.
Quitting can become a habit real quick.
Yes, it can. And
wow,
it's funny. A lot of the things you say are a lot of the same stuff that Chad talks about. You know, that he experienced, or things he even teaches now about just one more time, and
it works, don't it, Bo?
Training like you fight. You just got to put the work in, and the way that you're going to execute it. Don't alter it when you're in safe territory.
Yeah.
because then that's what you're going to do when you're in enemy territory.
Yeah. You know, I mean, and my nephew and my ex-son-in-law both went to Iraq, and they both went to Afghanistan. And I talked to them both. You know, they didn't go at the same time, but I talked to them both. And I told them, I said, there's two things you can count on. You can count on the guys with you, and you count on yourself. And that's what you have to depend on.
Yep.
And then when they went to Afghanistan, I told them basically the same thing. And I said, but I'm telling you right now, you're going to a different ball field. This ain't the same ball field. Mm-hmm. You got different terrain. You got different people, you know. And so you got to, you know, you got to adapt to that situation,
yes,
you know. And, you know, I always like to use the word adaptability. You have to adapt to the situation.
Yes, sir.
And your ability to do that, you know, can save your life and save the lives of people around you, you know.
What were the bright light teams you were talking about?
Oh, okay. Well, the bright light teams were teams that were kept pretty much on standby. And initially, the bright light teams were like if a pilot was shot down over Cambodia or Laos to try to get in to put a bright light team in to try to save him or get him out. Mm-hmm. And later it become bright light teams if we've had evidence of a POW being held somewhere, bright light team could go in and try to get them out. And also bright light teams could go in, you know, if we had a team in trouble, you could try to get a bright light team in, which sometimes are successful, sometimes not. The Vietnam or the POW situation, it wasn't always successful because you could get evidence of something, you know, and then you know, then they've already moved them, you know, by the time you get in there. But that's what the basics of the bright light teams were for rescue.
And were those bright light teams, were they S.O.G units?
Yeah.
Or okay.
Yeah, they were S.O.G.
How many S.O.G soldiers or people
operators?
There was about I think roughly about 3,000 people in S.O.G, and probably roughly 100 to 200 at a time that were running actually running missions. You know, you had operations people, you know, and other, you know, people, but roughly, you know, any time maybe 100, 200 guys actually running missions at any one time.
Man, that's why you guys all essentially know each other. You know the same. You know the same names.
Excuse me.
I mean, that's just that. I mean,
you talk about 100 or 200 guys.
I'm gonna go ahead and tell you that hat that Bo's got to earn the right to wear. That's special.
Yeah,
that's special, buddy.
But there's Billy Wilson. I haven't seen him since the COVID thing. Billy Wilson was S.O.G also, and I didn't even know he was in, you know, another S.O.G guy anymore near here in Calhoun, and I run across him at Planet Fitness, and
I'll be dang.
And it's kind of like, man, it's like finding two serial killers in the same county, you know. And but he was suffering from Parkinson's, but as we kind of passed each other. I was coming out when he was going in. Him and John Plaster come in about the same time as I was going out. So, but I haven't seen him in a while. So I hope he's okay. And most of the time when I see him after that was at the Legion, American Legion. And, but we had there's a guy named Wade Russell, and his dad was done pretty much some of the same stuff that we were doing, but his dad was MI, military intelligence. Mm-hmm. And so Wade, he said, my dad wants to meet you and Billy so bad. And so I said, well, me and Billy are agreeable, whenever he wants to meet. And so we eventually got it set up. We met at Thatcher's Barbecue there in Calhoun. And we had lunch. Some guy walked by, threw $50 on the table, said, I'm buying you guys meal. So we pretty much gave the whole $50 to the waitress. But my youngest daughter works at cardiology at Harbin Clinic there in Calhoun. Mm-hmm. And she told me, she said, Dad, I was talking to a guy that was in there, one of the patients, and he was telling me he did this and he did that. And I told him, well, my daddy was in S.O.G. And he said, who's your daddy? She said, Bo Jordan. He said, heck, I just had lunch with him about 3 weeks ago.
That is something else, man. What was there a long time there, Bo? I mean, right there while the war was still going on, and even after you got back home, that you guys couldn't really talk about what y'all were doing? Because
it was supposed to be like about 20 years, and it was about that long before guys started writing books. I've had people tell me, write a book, but that's not my thing. I don't write books. I tell people. I told them at church, I said, I wasn't a hero then. I'm not a hero now, and I probably won't be a hero in the future, but what I was good at what I did, and I was a good soldier. Zach Tripp, way Zach talks about me, I ought to be able to just get out there and walk across water, I could be the best sailor in the world. I wouldn't even have to swim. I'd just walk.
well, I'm gonna tell you, Bo. I mean, your memories and your experiences are extremely valuable.
Yeah.
And there's no disputing that. They're extremely valuable, and that's why we all look up to you, brother.
But I'm nothing special. My kids think I am, and some of the people who know me think I am, but I'm not. I'm just a regular guy, and I believe in my country, and I believe in God, and that'll be the way I am till I die, and I was blessed, I guess I come from a strong military family.
Yeah.
Like I said, I every time I see a first cav guy, I tell him, I say, man, I don't know what happened. I said, at one time or another, my dad was in the first cav. Both of my brothers were in the first cav. Was it my aftershave lotion? What was it? That I wasn't ever in the first cav.
You definitely came from a family of warriors, Bo.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
You got me talking,
this is important stuff.
Being from Texas, and I knew my great-grandfather had fought in the Civil War, but I really didn't know where he was at when the war started or whatever. And but I knew that they'd come from Alabama at one time, but I didn't know if they had got to Texas at that time or not. So I got to researching it. And I got the roster of the company he was in and two of his brothers. And they were actually in Arkansas. And they enlisted the day that Arkansas seceded from the Union. And they fought under the Army of Tennessee. And both my great-grandfather and his two brothers, they fought at Shiloh. They fought at Chickamauga. They fought at Battle of Sacca.
Wow, man. Those are big battles.
Yeah, and his brother, one of my great uncles, was killed in the Battle of Atlanta, and my great grandfather was captured by the Yankees at the Battle of Jonesboro, and then about 2 or 3 weeks later, they swapped prisoners. So he went right back to the South, went right back to fight for the South again. And
Gosh,
he and his brother were in North Carolina when the war ended. And
wow.
So
You traced it all the way back that far.
yeah, and that was on my grandfather's side of the family. On my grandmother's side of the family, they came from Scotland, and they were in Texas when Texas was fighting for independence, and my ancestor, one of my ancestors, and him and his two boys both got land grants from Texas for fighting for Texas independence, and I get lost in the great. He was like great uncle was the first sheriff of the county I was born in. So I guess it came in the blood.
It did. It sure did.
I don't know, but I'm a diehard American. I don't apologize for being American. I don't. The only person I have to apologize to is God.
Yep.
Yeah.
I want to hear a little bit about your faith too, Bo. You've been in obviously we've heard some tough situations. You've had to fight for your life and the life of your buddies, and you've been through a lot, brother. And what is your testimony, and how has your faith been a part of your life? Not throughout the war and the battles you fought, but even after that.
Yeah. Well, a little story I tell. I grew up in the country. I grew up coon hunting, and I reached a stage when I was younger that I don't know. I became afraid of the dark, and if I had to get up to go to the bathroom at night, I'd wake my brother up and make him go with me. And I can't explain it. I don't know if anybody can explain it to me. But one night I had to go to the bathroom. I had to go really bad, and I couldn't get my brother awake. So and this I don't know. It was just popped into my head. It just said, "Why are you afraid? Don't you know I'm with you?" And I can't say that my fear went away, but I didn't let my fear stop me. From that point on, I can be afraid of something, but it don't stop me, because and I firmly believe that was Jesus Christ that said.
And how old were you then?
I was about 11 years old.
Wow.
And I really believe that. He pretty much told me it's all right to be afraid. Just don't let it stop you from doing what you want to do.
Amen. Yeah.
I tell people I'm deathly afraid of heights, but here I am jumping out of airplanes.
Yeah.
And I tell people, I tell them if I ever get scared of where I'm not afraid of jumping, I'm gonna quit.
I guarantee you.
But I actually quit because I was more afraid of my wife.
I heard that, brother. Well, that's a really great dynamic that you point out there, as it revolves around fear. That fear can be something that hones you and makes you sharper in a scenario where you need to be sharp. When you're standing on the rear ramp of an aircraft at whatever 4,000 or 14,000 feet, you better have something in you that makes you a little bit nervous, because that's going to tighten you up. And just like Bo just said, the minute that you aren't a little bit afraid about what's about to happen, you better stop, because you're about to get complacent.
Yeah,
and that's when you get hurt.
Yeah, that was my whole point exactly. If you get to where you're not afraid of it or conscious of it, that's when you make a mistake. And if you get too confident in doing something, then you get careless sometimes. And that was my whole point exactly. If I got to where I wasn't afraid of it, then I might get complacent. And that's when you make a mistake. And it don't take much. Especially when you're jumping out like 1,200 feet.
There ain't no time. There's no time for a mistake when you're jumping at 1,200 feet.
we tried halo jump. I told you about we were kind of concerned about intel leaks about our what LZs we were going into or the coordinates where we was going in at. And this was after I left though, but they started trying to do halo jumps, but the problem that come up, Billy Wall was one of the legendary Billy Wall. He was one of the ones that was, but the problem was you had triple layer canopies, and if you're jumping night and you got like 3 layers of canopies down there and you can't see nothing, you can't see the ground, you can't see anything, and you're going to wind up with, people getting hurt.
Oh, yeah, you're going to be hanging from a tree somewhere.
Yeah, and so it didn't work out too good. And the other thing was they'd come out with these little electronic things, so if the team was separated, you could beep, 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 beep. And the problem was it didn't work if they got wet. so that kind of put an end to that.
Yeah, yeah.
But, that whole terrain wasn't ideal for making large scale parachute drops.
It's amazing that y'all could even get close enough to the ground to step off of of your helicopter to make an insert. I mean, I imagine there were only a certain few spots y'all could insert on, right?
Yeah, and we also you had sometimes when you had to be extracted out, you couldn't get a chopper in, so we had. Initially, we had what we called McGuire rigs. Mm-hmm. Basically, your rope, and they would pull you out. You'd be hanging under the chopper while they're dragging you out.
I can imagine that's a little uncomfortable.
Yeah, and also, you had to hang on. So if you're getting fired at, you couldn't fire back. While you're being pulled out. And, you could actually flip upside down, and we actually lost a lieutenant. This E4 was trying to hold him up. I can't remember the name, but he was trying to hold him up, and he couldn't hold him, and he fell. But some of the guys that used to run the Recondo school come up with what they call a stabo rig, which was basically we had a harness, and then they just hook onto the harness, and they pull you out.
So they drop those ropes down through the canopy, and then you guys would just hook up, and they would take off.
Yeah, and of course you're getting dragged through the trees and everything.
Gosh almighty, man.
When you had to hold on to the rope, how much of a distance would they get to a clearing and stop and let you get in, or how far was you hanging on?
Yeah, you'd hang on so you could get sometimes get basically back to a secure area. You got to get out of the jungle. So sometimes you were hanging on right till you got back to the launch site.
So what would that be, an hour or?
Yeah.
Wow.
Sometimes
gets a little cold up there at altitude, don't it?
And usually you had various assorted shrubbery. Fortunately, I didn't have to do that, but one time.
Gosh, dog, Bo.
I tell people one thing I was good at, and I was really proud. I could run. I could move.
Yeah. We've got a picture here of Bo back in his younger days when he was actually deployed to Vietnam, and I wish you guys could see it, man.
I may take a picture and use that one.
Because he's just, you can tell he's been out in the sun. He's fit. He's got an old white T-shirt on. The sleeves about ripped off of it. This guy, Bo, you were out doing some work, man. I love that. And still got a good haircut, too.
Yeah. Well, that's one thing that my future father-in-law liked about me. And I asked my wife if she wanted to go out for a date. And she said, well, you're going to have to ask my daddy. So her daddy was military, too. And I went over and I asked him, I said, can I take Penny out on a date? And his opinion was, any kid that's got his hair cut that short is bound to have some common sense.
Bo might be questioning us when
I'm
he pulled
surprised
up.
you even give us an interview, Bo. We ain't had a haircut in a year and a half.
Well, I had my hair cut 2 weeks ago from Monday, and 2 days later, my barber died.
Dang.
Yeah, he talks a lot, and I liked him, but I don't know. Some of the stuff he said was kind of strange and weird, but he was a good guy. And his wife told me he just went to bed and didn't wake up, you know. But I was over at Thomas Funeral Home there in Calhoun, and his name, the barber's name, was Don Thomas. And they were telling me, said, yeah, Don was over here telling us he knew how to kill a man 2,000 different ways. And I said, well, maybe that's true. I said, but there's only one way I like to kill him. That's long distance.
I heard that, brother. That's the safest way, ain't it?
Yeah, I'm not fond of that hand-to-hand combat stuff, you know.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want you to get that close to me.
Bo, people ask me that all the time when they ask me, "What you're a SEAL, you must be able to do some hand-to-hand combat," you know. And I say, look, man, if I was in the SEAL teams and you got close enough to me that I had to put my hands on you, something has went terribly wrong.
Yeah.
Terribly wrong, because I've got a rifle that has maximum effective range out to 400 meters.
Yeah.
And if I hadn't shot you somewhere in between 400 meters and you getting up close enough, arms reaching me, I have not done my job.
That's right. You know, I mean, let Chuck Norris do all that hand-to-hand stuff. You know, I mean, I don't want you to get too close to me. You know, you might have bad breath.
I guarantee you, brother.
But I tell when I talk to schools, I haven't talked to them quite a while, but I like to throw humor in there, you know. And one of the things I'd start out telling them, I am a retired United States Army First Sergeant. I said, Superman can leap tall buildings in a single bound. He catch speeding bullets in his teeth. Actually, I messed up. He catch speeding bullets in his teeth. He's more powerful than a locomotive, and he can leap tall buildings in a single bound. I said, First Sergeants, we catch speeding bullets in our teeth. We kick the locomotive off the track, and we pick up the tall buildings and walk under them. And I said, and by the way, the boogeyman, before he goes to bed at night, he checks his closet and under his bed to make sure there's not a first sergeant hiding there. And I said, by the way, Chuck Norris wears first sergeant underwear. And they're like, ooh. You know, I'm just kidding, but I like.
Oh, that's perfect, man. Well, so Bo, when you come off of you come back home from deployment. You spend 3 years in Germany.
Yeah.
The war starts to wind down.
Yeah.
You decide to stay in the Army for 23 years. Why did you, after the war was over, what kept you there? What kept you in the Army, and what were you doing?
Well, I was, I made up my mind that I was going to retire. And like I said, I was in Germany. And once again, I get I'm with, like I said, I'm with a small detachment. We're working with MI, military intelligence, and I get a phone call that said, my personnel. I was in Mainz. My personnel was in Frankfurt. And they called me and said, "You got orders to go back to the States?" And I said, "Where am I going?" They said, "Well, we can't tell you right now. We don't know." And I said, "Okay." And they said it's a special assignment, which scares the heck out of me. Every time I hear that, a special assignment.
Yeah, you've been on some special assignments by now. You know what that means, right?
So, I took a leave. I got a leave, and I come back, and I was assigned to the Office of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, where my assignment was. So I report in up to the Pentagon. Oh,
Don't worry about it. We're good.
And I'm like, before I report in, how do I get out of here? They're like, you can't get out of here. You was handpicked for this. And I said, okay. And so what I wound up doing, I was, I was assigned to the Office of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and I worked for the Secretary of Defense. Matter of fact, I worked, overall, I wound up working for them. And what we did, we were a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week, 365-day-a-year ears and operations for the Secretary of Defense. Everything that went to the SecDef came through us. And it was our job to keep him reported, keep him informed on what was going on, saying Somalia, whatever was going on in the world. That was our job. We were his intelligence people, his operations people. Mm-hmm. And we had teams. I was a team leader, and my team would work from 7 to 3 in the morning, or 7 in the morning, 3 in the afternoon. Then we'd for 3 days, and then we'd work 3 days from 3 in the afternoon to 11 at night. And then we'd be off 4 days, and then we'd come back and we'd work 3 days from 11 at night to 7 in the morning. And then we'd be off 3 days, and we'd start all over again. But that was what we did. We was handpicked to keep the SecDef informed of what was going on.
So that's a pretty big job. And do you think was that because, so your time at S.O.G, did that kind of follow you precede you through the rest of your career?
Yeah. Plus, the fact of my, I had a very, very high security clearance, based on S.O.G, and on what I did in Germany. And so, at one time, later on in my career, I was, you had 11 Bush, and I became 11 Foxtrot, which was infantry operations, and so I had that in my agenda, or in my I guess what I'm trying to think of the word.
Resume.
There you go. I knew it had something started with an R.
You were close.
Yeah. I'm getting senile in my old age. But basically, it was a good job, interesting job. I got to meet a lot of different people. I met Richard Nixon, matter of fact. But we also provided intel reports to the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and also to the White House and to the State Department. So quite frequently, I would have to go over to the State Department or to the White House. Usually, when I went to the White House, I dealt with the military assistant to the president, who at the time was General Scowcroft. But one time I went over, and they just brought some POWs back from Vietnam, and they were there meeting the president. So General Scowcroft said, "You want to meet some of the POWs, And I said, "Sure," And of course they were in with the president, and so I went in, and I got to meet Nixon, and some of the guys just come back from Vietnam from being held prisoner.
Yeah.
And, but it was a 3-year stabilized tour. In other words, I was pretty, and the Army couldn't reassign me because I came under the jurisdiction at that time. Even though I was Army, I came under the jurisdiction of the Secretary of Defense. And so I kept after him, and it was the job was good, but I didn't like Washington, D.C. at all.
Well, that's a hard shift from combat deployment in Vietnam. I mean, were you ever did you get do you feel like you got your feel of Vietnam on your tour, or was there a part of you that struggled with wanting to be back in more of a combat role?
Yeah, well, yes. I carried a knot around in my stomach for a long time, and it happened. It actually at one time, Stryker Meyer was the 1-0 of our. Well, I call it RT now, but Spike Team Iowa, and they were put into an LZ in northern Laos, and I wanted to go with them, even though I wasn't on the team. Stryker Meyer wasn't there. I don't know where he was at the time, but Lane and Owens was the two Americans on the team, and I wanted to go, but they wouldn't let me go because I was out processing. I volunteered to go because Lane wanted an extra American. But like I said, I started out processing, and I said, did I say Iowa or Idaho?
Idaho,
Idaho. Yeah, that was right. So what we heard, the last thing we heard was Lane on the radio. And he was prayer fire. That meant we're in a world of crap.
Yeah.
And prayer fire. We're surrounded by NVA. And that was the last we heard. And we put a bright light team in, and all they found was where there had been looked like a big fight, and nobody's ever recovered. As far as I know, they've never been recovered. But I wanted to go, and I couldn't go because they said because they'd already started pulling my records and everything. And I always carried that around in me, and I'm thinking, damn, I should have been there. I should have been with those guys. But, there's a whole part of me that says, well, if I'd have been there, I wouldn't have made any difference,
Yeah.
And there wouldn't be no Tanya, no Tara, no great grandson Houston, So it always kind of bothered me though, that I could have been there, if I'd have volunteered to extend, I could have been there.
Yeah.
But I didn't, and so I carried around. It still bugs me today, it bothers me sometimes. I wrote a poem. I'll send it to you. I wrote a poem called "Hidden Wounds," about hidden wounds that sometimes can stay buried in you. Then something will pop up, and it'll kind of open up the wound again,
Yeah.
And surprisingly enough, a lot of veterans that I've showed it to seems to help them sometimes. I don't know why, but and I'd never really written poems before, and it's just I was watching a TV show. And it just popped up, and I had to put it down to words.
Yeah.
That there are hidden wounds or scars that sometimes can be reopened. And
Do you remember it?
I somewhat, but I can give you a copy of it. I can send you a copy of it.
Yeah, I'd love to see that, Bo.
But at the end, I put basically, I ended by saying, I pray that when I walk through heaven's door, those hidden scars will be no more, So, but it just something. It was just something that popped into my head, when I was watching that show. It brought back a memory, and it made me think about, Lane and Owens, and the rest of the team members, indigenous team members, and other guys, so but I the biggest thing I worried about when I come back from Vietnam was when I would wake up and I could be halfway down the hallway and I'd wake up, you know how you slowly come awake, and I'd have a weapon in my hand. And I was afraid that I might wind up hurting somebody in my family. You know, it scared me really bad. So, you know, I mean, and just a reaction, you know. And I used to have, I don't know, you call them dreams or nightmares, but I would, it was like I was in a firefight, and I couldn't stop them. They just kept coming and coming and coming, and no matter what I did, no matter how many I killed, I couldn't stop them, or it'd be like I'd look down and it'd be like I'd have a tail gun in my hand, you know, and it wasn't doing anything, you know. So I don't know if that, you know, just, you know, it took me a while to get over that, you know. I mean, it took a while. I mean,
has time helped? What has helped you most, Bo?
Well, I'd kind of drifted away from church, from you know, I don't think I ever drifted away from Christ or God, but I wasn't really paying that much attention, you know, to Him. And I think getting reconnected is what helped me.
Helped heal your heart a little bit.
Yeah. But I usually, you know, Memorial Day or Veterans Day, I do something at church. There was 8 guys from Gordon County that were killed in Vietnam, and I'd read their names off. And you know, I always carried the names of Sullivan and Almendarez and Benavidez and Wright, and I mean Owens and Lane, King, and the guys from S.O.G that were killed in Vietnam.
Yeah.
You know. And you know those names. You know, they'll always be etched in my head, in my mind. And so Seymour, and you know, but then, you know, they're there, and I learned to, you know, to live with it. And I'm sure, you know, I don't know if any of the guys, you know, had what they call PTSD now. I mean, when I came back from Vietnam, I didn't even know what PTSD was, you know. I mean,
they just expected y'all to just go right on about your business, right?
Yeah. But I will say one thing, you know, that was different between me and guys like me and some other guys, you know, like if you were a draftee from like Podunk, Arkansas, and you went to Vietnam and you survived and you come back to Podunk, Arkansas, there wasn't anybody in there that knew what you'd been through.
That's right.
You know, and but with me, you know, I was still in the military.
That's right.
So I was stationed a lot of times with the guys that were also Vietnam veterans, you know. So, you know, I had people I could talk to. That guy from Podunk, Arkansas didn't, you know.
That's right.
So, you know, and one thing that has helped me too is when, you know, when my grandkids and my kids started coming up through school, and they were saying, "Hey, Papa, would you come talk to my class at school about Vietnam?" And so I was talking to people, and it was kind of a healing thing too to talk about it. I could tell people about it, and I speak mostly in generalities. I don't get into a lot of details, but I talk about things that we should have done and that could have been done, and what are the different reasons, you know, because, you know, history books can't tell you that, you know.
Yeah, that's the truth.
And so, it was kind of a blessing, and I've always had this weird sense of humor, so I can throw a little humor in there.
That's necessary.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
But anyway,
I love what you're talking about too, of carrying those men's name and speaking their name even here on on this. When we record this and we release it, it's gonna be out there from now on until the internet goes away, which probably never. And we did. I'm big. We did yesterday. We did a special episode for Memorial Day where we read the honor roll.
Yeah,
we read every SEAL, the name of every SEAL that's been killed since September 11th, 2001.
Wow.
Now that's just a small list. That's a very small list.
Yeah.
But it is important that we carry those names and to know that God's had just had another purpose for you. The reason you weren't out on that mission is partly because so you can carry those men's names.
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah.
And man, that's powerful, Bo.
Yeah. Yeah. It's I don't know. It's like I said. I've had a weird sense of humor. I get through a lot of things because I'm really kind of weird.
I get it, Bo.
My own special way. But usually, no matter what happens, my sense of humor carries me through a lot of times.
Yeah.
Sometimes I can see something, and then my sense of humor. It was like with. Can we turn it off just a second?
Yeah, go ahead. We'll take a little break, Bo. Go ahead. Hey, guys, I want to take a second to tell you about a company that supports 3 of 7 Project in a big way. It is Shea Butler Knives. Shea Butler Knives. So we have worked with Shea for quite a while now. Shea handcrafts some of the finest knives on earth. He supports 3 of 7 Project with his talents, with his products in a big way. He's our personal friend, and we just want to shout him out. If you guys are looking for literally an heirloom quality knife that's going to last you not only for your lifetime, but for generations, something that can be handed down, go and check Shea out and place an order with him because he's got the knife that you need. You guys know me. I am a knife snob. I actually appreciate a good handmade knife more than I do a fancy gun because they're just works of art, man. And Shea's the person to go to. Handmade blades based in the Midwest. Check them out at SheaButlerKnives.com, SheaButlerKnives.com. Check him out on Instagram at Shea Butler Knives. He's got everything from fixed blade knives to multiple types of folding knives, hunting knives, bushcraft knives. He's got something for whatever you need to do. So thank you, Shea, for supporting 3 of 7 Project. Thank you for making such an amazing product. We really appreciate you, brother. Enough said.
I'll tell you,
have you got used to that cell phone yet, bud?
I'm working on it. I'm working on it. I'll tell you what I do. Let me kind of go off a little off the side. My grandson graduated from basic training at Fort Jackson, and so we were on the way back home. My daughter was driving, and she kept getting calls on her cell phone. So I told her, I said, let me answer it. So she had her phone ring, and I said, Lieutenant Jones, homicide, can I help you? And I didn't hear anything. And I said, this is Lieutenant Jones, homicide, can I be of assistance? And I hear this woman's voice said, Tracy Hudson? And I said, excuse me, ma'am. I said, hold on the phone just a second. I said, okay, guys, go ahead and cover the body up and tell the coroner he can take it away whenever he's ready. And I come back on. I said, ma'am, I said, what's your connection to Tracy Hudson? Well, we were wanting to talk to her about insurance, but I don't guess she needs it now. and I said, yes, ma'am, you're probably right.
You got them good on that one, didn't you, brother?
And she said, well, thank you, Lieutenant. I'll have her name removed from our call list.
I might have to use that one. I might have to use that one day.
And my daughter was just dying.
Oh, I bet she was, man.
I've been wanting to do that for a long time.
Gosh almighty.
But anyway, I'm sorry I sidetracked.
No.
But anyway, I went to school, and then I went to work for a company used to be called Superior Rubber, Master Mat, and then they come in and they fired the plant manager, or well, not the plant manager, but the human resources guy and the production supervisor, and brought in a guy I didn't like. So I'm like, well, I ain't going to stay here. So I told people I'm going to find me another job, and so somebody told me, said, why don't you go over to Cabelco? And I, where and what is Cabelco? And they said it's the new Challenge Cook building, where Challenge Cook used to be. And so I went over and put in an application, and a couple of days later I had a message on my phone that said, call us, So I called them, and they said, come on in, we want to talk to you. So I went in, and I talked to the human resources guy, and he said, I want you to talk to one other guy. So I went and talked to Ben Rennells, and Ben said, well, we'll call you and let you know. So I'm heading out the door, and they stopped and said, come back. And so I went back, and they said, when can you start work? And so I told them, I said, well, I have about 7 days vacation still left from over where I work at. So I went home, and I told them, I said, I'm going to start working at Cabelco on the 4th of June. And I said, the guy over at Superiors want me to work at least till next Tuesday. And they said, why do you want to do that for? I said, go to Texas, go see your mom and dad. So I said, okay. So I loaded up and headed out to Texas and stayed out and then come back and went to work for Cabelco for about 16 years, and
wow.
Retired out of Cabelco. I had a lot of fun working there. I had a lot of good friends, I had a friend of mine. He'd got out of the Marine Corps before he come to work at Cabelco, and he had some Marine stuff, and he needed some money, so I bought like a Marine. It had like a Marine boonie hat and had a canteen, some other stuff, and so I was wearing the boonie cap in Cabelco one day, and this young guy come by and he said, "I didn't know you had been in the Marine Corps, Bo." And I said, "I wasn't." I said, "I just saw a Marine guy wearing the cap, so I went over, kicked his rear end, and took the hat." And he's like, "Okay." So he left, and somebody come over and said, "You know that guy just got out of the Marines, don't you?" I said, "I hope I didn't hurt his feelings."
There's that sense of humor again, Bo. I mean,
yeah, but I tell you, I have to watch myself. Sometimes I get, I can get a little cranky,
We all.
I do not like to see a woman abused. I mean, I'm 79 years old, and this guy was like 30 years old, and he grabbed this woman by the hair, had her hair like that, and I didn't even think about it. I mean, it didn't even, nothing penetrated my brain. I was just up, bam, I hit him, knocked him up against the wall, and he's like, "Don't hit me no more, don't hit me no more." And I said, "I'm not. Just keep your hands off of the lady,
Yeah.
And I apologized to people around, and they said, "No, what you did was right." And one of the guys said, "Man, I never seen Bo mad before. I hope he don't get mad at me." But it wasn't something. It was just instinct. It was just when he grabbed her by the hair, it was just like, oh wow. I was just up, and so I had to watch myself sometimes.
Well, you've devoted your whole life, Bo, to service, serving your country, serving your fellow man, and that's that muscle memory. And that's something that I'm nowhere. I'm not nearly as far on my journey as you are now. But it's something that I struggle with, and I catch myself doing that quite often. And it's I try to explain to people, when you spend that much time in that warrior environment, that is your life.
Yeah.
And it shapes your mind in a different way.
Yeah.
And it's just part of you. And it's not a bad part of you. Yeah. It's just different than most people can understand.
Yeah. Well, it was like after I first come back, I had a young guy, a friend of my son's, came up and I had my back to him, and he grabbed me by the shoulder. And next thing I knew, he was upside down, hitting the wall. Because I done flipped him over and whacked him up against the wall.
Yeah, man.
But I later on in the Army, I became first sergeant of a basic training company, and I had a name that they called me was Thunderbolt. What the drill sergeant secretly called me was, and because if something wasn't right, one time we had a graduating class from basic training, and the drill sergeant's supposed to make sure the barracks are spotless,
Yeah.
And when me and the CO went around to inspect, it wasn't. So guess who was in cleaning up the mess that was left behind? My drill sergeants. And I've had people, tell me, said, "Do you enjoy chewing out trainees?" I said, "Nah." I said, "I can chew out drill sergeants."
I heard that, brother.
And I had an incident, and the Army, in their intelligence, they pulled company clerks and supply clerks and put them at battalion. So, you have to do a morning report. It has to go up. I have to tell them how many people's in training, how many's on sick call, how many's this and that. And so the company was going out to the range, and I was doing the report before I went out to the range. And we had some of them that were coming back from sick call, and Drill Sergeant Johnson come in to take the ones that were coming back from sick call that were returned to duty out to the range. So I hear all this commotion going on out in the hallway. "You're going to the range." "I'm not going to the range." "You're going to the range." And I went out, and Johnson had took the kids' field equipment and threw it down on the floor. And I told Drill Sergeant Johnson, I said, "Take the rest of the people, go out to the range." And I told the young man, I said, "Come in here, come into my office." So I said, "We got two things we're going to talk about." I said, "Number one, if you're ever in combat with me and I give you an order and you don't obey it and you endanger lives," I said, "I'll probably kill you myself." I said, "The second thing you need to know," and I didn't holler. I just said, "Do you want to go to the range the easy way or the hard way?" He said, "I want to go to the range first, Sergeant." I said, "Good, get your equipment and I'll take you out there." The next person I got was Drill Sergeant Johnson. I said, "You do not argue with a trainee. You lower yourself down to their level. They either do what they're told or they have to pay a penalty for it."
Yeah.
And it's that simple. You don't
That's
have
life.
to holler. You don't have to scream. Yeah. But the whole deal was a kid that never really been around weapons before, you know.
Yeah.
And I guess he was afraid, you know, he might get shot or killed with with an M16 rifle. So, you know, and I'd been this before I went down to the training company. I'd been the senior instructor for the weapons committee, and so I knew all the guys on the weapons committee, the running ranges and everything. So I took the young man out there, and I stayed with him all day that first day. Every time he shot around, I was right there with him, and he was afraid. He was afraid. That's all he was.
Yeah.
Was afraid. But after he realized that M16 wasn't just going to jump up and kill him, he was fine. No more problem, you know. As a first sergeant, I believed in taking care of my people. I believed in taking care of my troops. And if you don't mind, I tell people this one incident that occurred to me meant more to me than any of the ribbons you see wearing on my uniform.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the first Saturday or the first time this particular training company had PX privileges. And it was on Saturday afternoon. They could go to the PX and come back.
For y'all listeners, the PX is the little store that's there on base. And when you get through boot camp, you finally get to buy. They got like toothpaste, toothbrushes, floss, deodorant, like nothing special. But
anyway, they had the privileges, and most of my drill sergeants had already left. I had my duty NCO, my duty drill sergeant there, charge of quarters. So he come down and he told me, he said, First Sergeant, he said, some of the trainees have requested permission to speak to you. And now I'm not a first sergeant that sits behind a desk and hides, you know. I believe in being with my troops. I believe taking care of my troops. And so I said, sure, bring them on down. I'll talk to them. So they come in. And they told me, said, First Sergeant said, we were on the way back from the PX, and we saw this young guy sitting at the bus stop, and he really looked down and dejected, said he really looked bad. And so we stopped and started talking to him, and he said he was going AWOL. And we told him, said, no, don't go AWOL. Come talk to our First Sergeant. And I said, well, I don't like to interfere in somebody else's business. I said, but I'll talk to the young man. So he come in, and I sat down, and I talked with him for a while, and he talked to me. And I told him, I said, look, I know you're First Sergeant. I said, your First Sergeant is a friend of mine. And I know if what you're telling me is true, then First Sergeant Marshall will take care of it. And so I called First Sergeant Marshall up, and I said, look, I'm not trying to interfere in your company business. I said, but my people brought one of your people down, and I said, it sounds like a legitimate situation, legitimate problem. So Marshall come over, talked with the young man, and then they left. And then when he graduated from basic training, he come over and thanked me. And to think that my people thought that I cared enough about them that I would take care of somebody else's troop, it meant a lot to me.
Yeah.
It meant, that they knew that I would take care of them and I'd take care of him, somebody else too, so, that was anything that anybody could have pinned on my chest couldn't been any better.
Well, I love it how, your generation in the Army that you served in, these leadership qualities were just part of who you guys were. Yeah. I mean, it was not only the way you were raised, Bo, but it's what you exemplified throughout your entire career. And it seems like nowadays those leadership qualities, they've been nuked, they've been complicated, and everybody's searching for it, and you just make it sound so simple. It's just like, this is what happened in combat. This is what happened when I was in this leadership role as an instructor and a leader, and all throughout it's so simple. And when you tell it, it sounds that way, and that's what leadership is, man. You know. Yeah.
Well, you know, I mean, I've always believed, you know, you take care of your people, you get them trained, and when all of that combines into making somebody that you can depend on, and that and that's going to have pride in themselves and their unit, you know.
There you go.
You know, I mean, you know, being a SEAL, you know, and even being, you know, Army Special Forces or whatever, you know, you take great pride in that, you know, because not everybody can do that. Not everybody is going to take that one day at a time thing. You know, one more day and I'll make it. One more day and I'll make it. You know, a lot of people don't do that. A lot of people quit. They drop out. And but you get that sense of pride, you know, like I was telling you, you know. I mean, you put me in that old short sleeve khaki uniform and pair of spit-shine Cochran jump boots, and I strutted. I mean, I had pride in who I was. Yeah. And I've never stood in a parade or anything where they played the Star Spangled Banner or whatever, you know, country patriotic song, that I didn't feel a sense of pride just run down through my whole body.
Amen, brother. Yep.
I mean, I took pride in myself. I took pride in my countrymen.
Yeah,
and you know, in my country, you know, I mean, that's the way I was raised. You know, that's the way I believe.
Mm-hmm. And it's becoming more and more rare, but it's people need to hear this because it's an essential quality that's going to keep our nation alive. Right? We have to have that.
Oh yeah, yeah. We are so totally divided in this country right now. I mean, used to, you know, you could sit down, you could have disagreements, but you could talk about it, and you could reach, you know, whatever you reached. But now they can't even talk to each other. You know?
That's right.
I mean, it's just anger. They're the people who say, I don't know, I might. The people who say they're trying to get rid of racism are promoting racism in the things that they do. You know?
100%, brother.
You know, I mean, I've never considered myself a racist. I've never, you know, you know, I mean, I tell people, you know, I've seen black guys, I've seen white guys shot to pieces, and the blood is all the same.
That's it, brother.
The blood is all the same.
Yep.
You know, there's nothing different.
No.
You know,
and I think on that specific topic, the only solution to racism is God's word. It says we are all one under Christ. Yeah. There's literally no difference. And Bo, you learned that in combat. Yeah. It's because it's truth. And if one thing the military can do for any and everybody, no matter where you're from or what your background is or what your beliefs are, when you go and join the military, especially a specialized unit where you have to work closely together, you realize how quick all that bull crap, all that division between color and background and political, all that goes away. Yeah. And we can work together as a team of men, human beings, in order to accomplish a mission. That was one of the most beautiful things I got from the Navy, because I grew up in a very racist environment. Yeah. Culture. I mean, down south, that was the culture. Yeah. Even when I was growing up. And, you know, me going into the Navy, without a doubt, is the best thing that I ever did in my life, because it makes you realize how stupid all that stuff is. Yeah. And all that squabbling is. Yeah. And, you know, it's I agree with you 100%, brother.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, the blood's all the same, and if you read, in the beginning, God created man in His image, is what He said. I created in my image.
Yep.
So we're all images of God.
That's it.
We might have might have a darker tan than others.
Yep.
But we're all human, all creators of God.
Isn't that a wonderful, simple solution?
Yeah.
I mean, how can you can't get no more simpler than that? I mean,
yeah. But but I know I've seen racism. When we came back from Germany, with my dad, in 1958 to Fort Benning, Georgia. I went to school with Eddie James, was one of my best friends, and to be told, hey, when you get to Georgia in 1958, y'all ain't going to be able to do like you do, you've been doing over here in Germany.
Yeah.
And that, why,
Yeah.
Why does that make a difference? We're still going to be the same people.
That's it, brother.
Yeah.
You just can't put no logic to it because it's foolishness is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Bo, I think we at about we're at 3.5 hours now, brother. We're gonna wrap this one up.
Okay.
I'll tell you what, brother, we'd love to have you back out.
Okay.
Another time, man, to just keep hearing these stories, your experiences through a life lived to the fullest, man.
Yeah.
A life well lived.
Yeah.
Really. I mean, and I can't thank you enough, brother.
All right. Can I mention one more name
100%,
before
brother.
we go? Roy Benavidez won the Medal of Honor. And to show you how man can do, Roy was basically operations NCO.
Mm-hmm.
But the team was in trouble in Cambodia. His friend Wright and Musso were on the team. And believe it or not, about 15 Ks away across the border is an American unit, but because of the rules and regulations, couldn't get over to help the team. So we're getting a bright light team in. Roy was one of the first ones in. He was shot 7 times, had a bayonet run all the way through his arm, was clubbed in the head with the butt of an AK-47, and he's still credited with saving 8 guys' lives. Gosh. And he won the medal. He won the Medal of Honor. Roy died in '98, but as badly wounded as he was, the chopper that medevaced him out, he was with Musso. Musso died on the way, though. But as bad as he was, he would not leave Musso's side. He stayed with him all the way. All the way to, until they got to Tonsanut, and of course Musso died on the way. But that's the kind of men that I worked with. That's the kind of men I worked with.
This is what that obviously being an extreme example, of what we talk about is going to set you apart in life. Mm-hmm. Is you just got to keep getting up.
Yeah,
like Bo said, you just got to keep taking another step, showing up that day and saying, I'm going to get through this day. You got to keep getting up and drawing on every remaining. Imagine this story that Bo just told of his friend Roy, right?
Yeah.
Imagine what it took, the willpower that it took for him to just keep coming.
Yeah.
In that situation. It's just you men set the standard that we and we need to do our best to live up to that standard and know what you guys did.
Yeah.
We need and I think a lot of that a lot of it is being lost. The stories of these men like Roy. I mean, I would have never heard that story.
Yeah.
More than likely, if it wouldn't have been for you having the courage to come here and share it with us, Bo.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna tell you what, man, it strengthens my resolve.
Well, good.
And thank you guys, each you and all your teammates that went over there and made that sacrifice for our nation and for the people of Vietnam.
Yeah.
That you were there, that were there fighting alongside you guys. I mean, it's just it's a fine example of just human fortitude and will and want and integrity and honor and all of those things.
Yeah. Well, I had the good fortune of that's the way I was raised. You know, I come from a father, you know, who was career military, and you know, like I said, you know, I didn't have to go to the movie to see John Wayne. John Wayne lived at my house. You know, my dad was a World War II veteran, Korean veteran, 2 tours in Vietnam. You know, I mean, you know, I tried to live up to my dad, but I didn't have enough wars to.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
You know, I did kind of hope that they'd recall me at one time for, you know, when the stuff started in Iraq and Afghanistan, but I guess they figured, you know, I'd be old and senile, you know. So.
I don't know, Bo. I don't know, man.
But I would have went, you know.
I know you would.
You know.
It's who you are, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Blake, you got anything?
I just appreciate you coming on as these, you know, as men like you grow older, and these stories are only less and less out there. So for you to take the time to come out and share them and record them, I can't thank you enough.
Well, like I said, you know, talking about these things, you know, I discovered, you know, was like a treatment, you know, in itself. You know, I mean, talking about it, it makes you, you know, makes me feel better, you know, in some respects, you know. So it don't bother me as much as it used to. Of course, I guess that, you know, distance, time, you know, lessens the impact of things. But, you know, I'm not worried about jumping up at night and, you know, shooting somebody.
Yeah.
Of course, you know, if you break into my house, I will. You know?
I heard that, Mo.
But anyway, I appreciate you guys having me out.
Well, thank you, brother, and I hope our friendship carries on. And we just nice to know there's men like you here in our community, with the mindset that you have and the willingness that you have to share. Man, it's truly an honor.
I think I told Blake when I talked to him, I promised not to tell any Navy SEAL jokes.
Wait, we're gonna save them for the next episode.
Yeah,
we'll
No, I truly respect. Like I said, I respect all branches of service. You know, I just, like I said, I have this weird sense of humor, and I like to pick at people a little bit.
I heard that, brother. Ain't nothing wrong with that, Bo.
But I appreciate you guys. I appreciate your service. You know,
thank you, brother.
I know what you guys had to go through, and as well. I mean, not everybody can do things. You know, not everybody. You know, it's just a few that can make it through. You know, SEAL training or Special Forces training or anything like that. It takes that. You got to have that attitude. You know, because you know, they're going to try to break you. You know, they're going to try to break you down. Sensory deprivation, as I call it. You know, that because if you can break, then the enemy can break you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So,
and they kind of got the same model that Jesus uses. Mm-hmm. You know, you can't mold somebody into what you want them to be until you get them down to their lowest point.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of times that's what Jesus does to us. He waits for us to get down to our lowest point.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then he says, all right, now I can use this guy.
Yeah.
I can build him back up and use him for something good.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
So it's a great model. It works.
Yeah, it is, you know. But anyway, I thank you, and I thank Blake for having me out here.
Well, we'll see you again, Bo. We appreciate it.
I'm here for my days are numbered, but I kind of kid around with people. I tell them, they used to say only the good die young, so I'm probably looking at maybe 150, 160.
I like that attitude, Bo. All right, guys, this is the 3 to 7 podcast. Enough said.